Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we gather together, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And gosh, if only we had a couple of interesting things to talk about today. Anyway, joining me here today as we, gravel around trying to find something interesting to talk about is the always interesting Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I thought I would just dust my apartment, build a model. Just there was because I was so bored and there's nothing to talk about today. So I didn't even know. I was going to call you and say, John, I'm cleaning my toilet.
There's just nothing interesting to talk about here today. Also joining us here as we desperately try to find something interesting to talk about, who also, oddly enough, wrote me this morning demanding to own 50% of my YouTube channel, is the one and the only Miss Kris Carr. Kris, how you doing?
Those were very reasonable demands, John. How dare you? Dare you air this on air? Yeah. Hopefully we'll figure something out.
We air our dirty laundry. Listen, guys, obviously, all facetiousness aside here, we are going to be talking about this Disney and Sony situation and how ultimately we all lose and everybody loses in this damn thing. We're also going to be talking about Matrix 4 is happening. Any other day, this is the lead story. Any other day, this is the lead story. Also, it looks like there is a possibility, however small, that a Joker sequel could happen after this movie comes out in October. We'll talk a little bit about that. Despite what's going on with Netflix, David Fincher wants a 5-season run of Mindhunter. Could that happen? We'll talk about that a little bit. But before we get into any of those things, guys, I want to remind you just to do a couple of things before we jump into it. Do this for us. Number one, make sure you click on the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel, staying up to date on all the stuff we got going on here. Make sure if you like these sorts of discussions, give this video a thumbs up. Just go ahead and click that thumbs up now. And make sure you leave your comment in the comment section below to keep the conversation going. Or if you want your comment or question asked in the video, just go ahead and use the super chat feature. That guarantees that your comment or question will be read in a video, and we'll get to those a little bit later. Okay, with that down, let's go off the top before we get to our main topics here. One of the films that a lot of us have been very excited about, very, very excited about, is It Chapter 2. The first It movie was such a great surprise. I don't think a lot of people were expecting too much from it. The trailers looked really good, came out, blew us all away. We had a great time. And a lot of us have very, very much been looking forward to It Chapter 2. Well, the first reviews and reactions for It Chapter 2 have now come out, and basically they're very good, but not great. Which is reflected in a few people's comments. We're going to start things off here with Joe Blow's Paul Shirley, who writes, "It was great to see kids return in flashbacks, but I'm not sure if it helps or hurts the older cast, who could have used a little bit more screen time. Still, they all live up to their young counterparts well. The time jumps can be jarring at times, but you settle in a few issues that stuck out. It was about 10 to 15 minutes too long, which gives it a slow start and made me feel there wasn't enough Pennywise, who is played beautifully, frighteningly again by Bill Skarsgård." Sean O'Connell writes, "So It Chapter 2, it's very good, but not great. I liked it, but didn't love it. The first movie is a tough act to follow. 2 is gruesome, strange, but rarely scary. Nails important aspects from the book, but feels overlong. Cast is aces, though, and Bill Hader should be in the Oscar conversation." That's one of the common things I've read through a lot of them, is that Bill Hader, which you wouldn't expect, who's good, but everybody's saying he was an absolute standout in this. Our friend Peter Soretta from over there at Slash Film writes, "It Chapter 2 is probably scarier than Chapter 1, more Pennywise imagery to haunt your dreams, but it also loses a lot of charm in the shift in focus from the coming of age to the now adults. At nearly 3 hours, it feels very long." Brandon Davis writes, "It Chapter 2 is big, creative, scary movie. It's more fun to root for kids than for adults, who are perfectly cast. It ends up running too long, but it is a good follow-up, and some images will stick with you in all of its R-rated goodness." So, look, this is one of those situations, Rob, where I think we as film fans have a tendency to go, "Oh, it's not better than The Godfather, so you're saying it's not any good." That's what we generally kind of do. It Chapter 1 was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I remember you and I talking about this before, and I'm like, listen, I don't even need It Chapter 2 to be as good as It Chapter 1. Just get within that 70 to 90% range of being as good as It Chapter 1, and I'll be happy. It sounds to me like the people who've seen the movie enjoy the movie. They're saying it's a good movie, just maybe not as good as it could have been or whatever, but that doesn't at all sound to me like it's not worth seeing, because I already know there are going to be people going, oh, so then I guess it sucks, because they're not saying it's the best thing ever. I think it still sounds good, maybe not quite as good. Are you surprised to hear the reactions that we're hearing, or is this right around you were expecting it to be? What do you think?
Well, these kinds of criticisms, everything that you just read, I don't believe them, if that makes any sense, because everybody walks into movies these days expecting them to be like handing down them the tablets from God.
Right.
And that they're going to be given the new gospel that is going to change their lives. I mean, that's how I feel that movie criticism has devolved into. And like a movie doesn't seem, to me at least, to be reviewed on its own terms, or even cinematically. It's reviewed by how people are changed by the experience.
Right.
And I've often found that people come back and go, I watched this movie again and it's really good. Like when you go into a theater for the first time these days, I think people expect this revelation. And sometimes when they're not getting exactly what they want in the first 10 minutes, their perception is a little skewed. And then when they can get it at home on, say, 4K disc like I do, they can sit down and they watch something and they sit with it. And the expectation, they're just sitting down to enjoy it more. I hear this a lot more about Endgame. Now that it's come out on video, people are watching it and going, wow, this movie's really good. It's better than I remember or whatever. I think that's true of, like, of course I could be off base, but I think it too is probably going to be an experience one way or another. And it sounds like it's pretty great.
Yeah, and people are still saying basically they enjoy this film, they like it, it's worth seeing. Some are saying it's going to haunt your dreams, which is all great. They're just like saying this may not be the greatest thing ever, which is unfortunately where we as film fans are these days. It's like, is it the best thing ever? And if it's not, then we get disappointed. Question is, guys, what do you think about these initial reactions we're hearing to It Chapter 2? Are you completely satisfied? Are you still excited about seeing it? Do these reviews hamper some of your enthusiasm? Let us know what you think. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's go to another thing off the top here, which is this. We don't talk a lot of video games here, but this is a story that crosses over video games and the movie world. Now, often we are seeing video games trying to crack into the movies. Every once in a while, we see the movies sneaking into the video games. Such is the case with one of the more popular games out now, Mortal Kombat, and their combat set. They've got a new expansion coming out where they're introducing a bunch of older Mortal Kombat characters, yes, but significant to our purposes here, a number of iconic film figures as well. We've got Spawn is going to be in there. Joker is going to be in there. And Terminator in the likeness of Arnold Schwarzenegger, an older Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way. I saw the trailer for this, and Schwarzenegger looks great. The Schwarzenegger model looks great, which is actually, I think, very, very interesting. Now, ultimately, end of the day, these are just skins put on 3D models, right? So I don't know that's going to make the game any better, but it certainly introduces kind of a modicum of fun when you get to do this sort of stuff. Rob, do you think that we are going to be seeing more and more of a merging of these different video games and movies? We see so many video games try to turn into movies, now movies sneaking more into video games. Do you think, especially with the Spider-Man game that was so successful and all that kind of stuff, do you think we're going to see these things more and more become intertwined, or do you think it's still going to just be one of these, hey, every once in a while something special like this is going to happen that movie and video game fans can celebrate? How do you look at it?
No, I think it's going to happen more often because, first of all, like you pointed out, John, fun. It's fun. What was it? Kingdom Hearts? The Disney game Kingdom Hearts was one of the first games that started to really cross-pollinate with various characters from different movies and things like that. I mean, look, pop culture has become... It's a quilt, it's this gigantic tapestry. And I think in our own minds, look, Ready Player One did this well. When I watched the Gundam, the RX-78 show up and kick some ass, even though it was in the virtual world, it was the closest thing to being in a live action movie so far. Well, there has been a Gundam pseudo live action film. But I love seeing cross-pollinated characters in the proper venue. I don't know if I'd want to see a movie with Spawn and Terminator in it, but unless it was well written and really well directed, I guess it could be. Anything could be good. But I think a game like Mortal Kombat is the perfect venue for this.
Yeah.
I mean, why not watch all these characters that kick ass come in and kick ass? Fatality. I want to see that.
Fatality. Kris, I thought I could feel sunshine coming out of your face when Kingdom Hearts was mentioned. But anyway, you're hearing about this. Do you think this is an interesting move, or do you think this is just going to be kind of a once-in-a-while thing?
I think this is so fun, and I hope more games do this. I can't wait to play as Spawn. Are you kidding me? That's going to be so freaking cool. And I really do think, video games have really stepped it up in the past couple of years. You mentioned Spider-Man. That, to me, is the number 2 Spider-Man movie of all time, that video game. The PS4 Spider-Man is brilliant and heartbreaking and fun. And so having these movie characters kind of intertwine in video games, I am all for it. And I can't wait to play this.
John, I'd love to see a Madden, like where you could actually pick your football teams and it would all be characters from movies.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
like
God.
so like you could have the Terminator be your
You just
QB.
gave them the $1 billion idea now. You realize that, right?
Like, you could have a draft.
Where's Mark Cuban? We have to Shark Tank
It's
this
a
right
movie
now.
character draft. Like, what if they were so deep that you could get like all of the Dirty Dozen or all of the Wild Bunch? Go back or the entire Corleone family. Sonny Corleone is like your linebacker.
Or NBA, Darth Vader as your point guard shooting threes, and then using the Force to guide the ball.
Yeah.
I think you're on.
I would finally learn about sports, you guys. It'd be amazing.
You just gave them the $1 billion idea. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this Mortal Kombat with the movie characters coming in? Do you think this should be an ongoing trend? Do you think it should just be done once in a while? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that stuff out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, make sure you fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured right here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. Kris, what is our first main topic today?
This is coming from Nate Besson. I feel like it was forever ago that they announced that they were doing a Cruella movie with Emma Stone in the lead. Wasn't that like years ago? Then I heard today that's been pushed back from its 2020 release date to 2021. I don't want to rush anything, but aren't we all well beyond this at this point? Why another delay? What's the point? What is the point, John?
They're not wrong. They've been talking about this movie for frickin' ever. As a matter of fact, I remember somebody writing into the show a while ago saying, hey, remember that Cruella movie that they were going to do? Is it even still happening? Yep, happening, all that kind of stuff. If I'm not mistaken, they might have even shot the damn thing by now. But anyway, you've got an Academy Award-winning actress in it, multiple Academy-nominated actress in Emma Stone, who's fantastic. Here's the basic gist of what's going down. This is from Variety. Disney is shaking up its release calendar, delaying its live-action Cruella from Memorial Day 2000 or until Memorial Day 2021, and pushing the Fox 2000 drama The Woman in the Window, which stars Amy Adams, by the way, to 2020. Cruella, starring Emma Stone, is based on the classic 101 Dalmatians villain Cruella de Vil. The revisit to Disney's animated classics was originally set to hit theater on December 23rd, 2020, but will now debut on May 28th, 2021. I, Tonya director Craig Gillespie, who did such a great job with I, Tonya, will direct the film. Rob, when you're looking at the dates that this thing is moving from and moving to, sometimes we can formulate an opinion about it's moving from a bad date to a great date, or it's moving from a great date to a bad date. This kind of seems like it's has 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. This is actually, it looks to me like a pretty good release date change for it. It's not that big of a time difference. I don't think this points to any problems. So while I do think this movie is overdue to be in theaters, I don't really think this is an issue one way or other. I think it's found a perfectly good release date for it, so I'm fine with it. I don't know. How do you see it?
I completely agree with you. Release dates get moved around all the time. It depends how far along something is in the production process. I mean, I guess a movie like Cruella would need more time for visual effects, wouldn't it?
Maybe.
I mean, there's a lot of dogs there to deal with, and they're not whether they're real dogs or CG dogs. Wrangling that many 101 Dalmatians, right?
Yep.
That's a lot of dogs.
But maybe there's only 2. This is a prequel, by the way. So maybe Maybe it'll show us the secret origins of her hatred for Dalmatians or something like that. I mean, maybe a Dalmatian bites her in the knee when she's a little girl or something.
Boo. We already had Glenn Close. We don't need this. I don't want to feel bad for a woman who wants to skin puppies.
Well, yeah, you can't really make her sympathetic, can you?
And
So
Glenn
will this
Close
be
was
the Mary
so good.
Poppins Returns of the 101 Dalmatians franchise?
She just comes down on a dog skin parachute and is like, "Hey, everyone."
Oh!
Lin-Manuel.
I've never had Peter write in to complain to my show, but we may actually have them do it now.
I do not support this.
Emma Stone coming in a Dalmatian skin umbrella. I love it. Hey, listen, guys, what do you make about this? Are you excited for something like this? I actually am pretty intrigued by the movie. Do you think this is a big deal that they're moving dates? Maybe you don't care about the movie at all. Jump down in the comment section below and let me know what you think. Okay, with that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. Kris, what is our second main topic today?
So this is from Trent Horston. Hey, John, I know you said you haven't had a chance to watch Mindhunter Season 2 yet, but holy crap, you've got to get to it as soon as possible. Anyway, I've been nervous lately with all the talk that Netflix doesn't really plan on letting hardly any show go past 3 seasons. But I saw an interview where David Fincher says he plans on having 5 seasons of the show. Do you think that's just wishful thinking, or does he know something we don't know?
Yeah, this is, first of all, Mindhunter Season 1 was absolutely fantastic. Oh, and for whatever reason, my phone's ringing. So anyway, I usually have that on mute. I'm sorry about that. How unprofessional. I will talk to myself later. Anyway, Mindhunter Season 1, absolutely incredible. And I am now, even though I had no time for it, when I was supposed to be doing other things and staying up way too late, I'm actually now 4 episodes into Mindhunter Season 2. Holy crap, this season's great.
Yep.
This season of Mindhunter is so freaking good so far. I'm very, very excited about it. I still obviously have a long way to go. So where's this whole thing coming from? About the notion of going 5 seasons. We were just talking on the show the other day about how it's becoming more and more well known that Netflix is kind of having a philosophy of really not letting shows go past 2 or 3 seasons at most. Here we have Fincher saying 5. Where does that come from? Well, the actor, I always mispronounce his name, McElhaney, who plays Bill in the show. I love that character, by the way. Anyway, McElhaney revealed that in one of his very first meetings with Mindhunter producer and director David Fincher, who directed all of Season 2, if I'm not mistaken. Fincher,
No.
Oh, he didn't direct all of them?
Yeah.
I thought I heard he directed all of them.
No, he directed 4. Carl Franklin directed 4.
It would be a very busy schedule, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Producer and director David Fincher. Fincher talked about his plans for at least 5 seasons. He said, listen, are you ready to do this for 5 seasons? Because even if I fuck it up, it's going to go 5 seasons, and I don't intend to fuck it up. That's from David Fincher, which is a great line. So I'd like to think that we will continue for as long as David is intrigued by telling this particular story. Now, Rob, you and I are both kind of the mindset that Netflix, well, we get they want to be financially conscious. They don't, as the longer shows go, the more expensive they become. But, you know, you've got to make exceptions. You've got to have shows that are really finding their stride and working. You got to facilitate those. Does David Fincher know that he's going to be given 5 seasons here? Do you think it's just wishful thinking on his part? What do you think is going to happen with Mindhunter?
Look, I think David Fincher is one of the greatest assets in the Netflix quiver that they have to pull out to shoot, and I think that they want to keep him happy. But again, it's going to depend always on viewership and how much the show costs. Now, I know David Fincher is a very meticulous director, and the show is part of, I think, what's so great about it is the sort of clinical way that it's made. But it's basically people in rooms talking. I don't see, there's probably, knowing Fincher, there's a lot of period effects being utilized that we don't even see as being effects.
Right.
But I would hope that the fact that the show is probably not as expensive as, say, other shows like Star Trek Discovery,
right,
where it isn't as much of an investment as, say, other shows could be. Because, John, my God, the acting in the second season of Mindhunter,
so good so far,
is there. The guy Michael, I want to say it's Cervantes or something, the guy who plays the new head of the FBI that's now running behavioral sciences. That
so
dude
good.
is so good, and McElhaney is crushing it, and Anna Torv is
I know you finished the season. I'm only 4 episodes in. I am loving her story thread this season so far. Like, I am just so into it.
Wait till you see how her storyline sticks the landing too. And I just, it is such a delight watching a show where people just talk to each other, whether they're talking to mass murderers or not. I mean, I love this show. It's brilliantly written. It's brilliantly photographed. It's brilliantly scripted, brilliantly acted, brilliantly directed. I mean, between this and Chernobyl, we're in the golden age of TV just continues to roll on.
Yeah, one of the interesting things, though, too, I don't know how cheap this show is to make because it's like they have to recreate inside and out like a different era. But I never once doubt it. Every time they're either in a room or outside in a neighborhood, I never for a second doubt that we're in that era. And they don't have to pull a Quentin Tarantino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood of fixating on it. Look, everybody, it's 1970s Hollywood or 60s Hollywood. Look! They don't do that in Mindhunter. They do. It's so good so far. I still got a few more episodes to go. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a series that Netflix would actually allow to progress on and actually go to 5 seasons? Or do you think they're going to kill it the way they are a lot of other shows? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's now move on to our third main topic today. Kris, what is main topic number 3?
This is from Sean Lara. Greetings, everyone, and I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to know if you've had a chance to see that Joker director Todd Phillips is saying that his new Joker movie could actually have a sequel. I know we've all been assuming that this was a total standalone one-shot movie, but do his recent comments change your mind? Thanks. Do you think we're going to get a sequel to this movie?
Okay, look, I have been saying for a long time, this is a one-and-done movie. Mm-hmm. You know, and it is an isolated movie. It's separate from the DCU, a true, glorious, stand-alone isolated movie that happens to be utilizing comic book characters. I've been looking forward to this so much, and one of the reasons Joaquin Phoenix, signed up for it and didn't sign up for Doctor Strange, because you guys remember he was this close. He was supposed to be signing up for Doctor Strange, and ultimately what derailed that was he didn't want to sign multi-film deals, right? He didn't want to do those sorts of movies. So we've all been assuming, including this guy, that this was a one-and-done thing. Well, the director of the film, Todd Phillips, is saying, you know what? There could be a way for us to come back and do another one. It's a possibility. This is what Todd Phillips had to say. One thing I will tell you, I would do anything with Joaquin any day of the week. There's nobody like him. If he was willing to do it, and if people show up to this movie, talking about the Joker, and Warner came to us and said, you know what? If you guys could think of something, well, I have a feeling that he and I could think of something pretty cool. Now, Rob, this is clearly far removed from any sort of confirmation that a Joker sequel is coming. This is this is like in Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance, right? These just left the smallest crack of a window open, but I still think that's significant because I thought this was goose eggs. Like, I thought there was zero chance that they would make another one of these. It was going to be a true standalone, blah, blah, blah. But now we're seeing a little bit of crack in the window. Rob, I would have said zero before. I look at these comments and now I got to go, well, maybe there's like a 10% chance, which is pretty big. Maybe there's a 10% chance they do another one. I don't know, Rob. You're hearing these comments from Todd Phillips. Where did you think the chances stood of them doing another Joker movie before hearing these comments? And where do you think the chances stand now after you've read these comments?
Well, I've been fascinated by this project since the beginning. The fact that they're doing it, that it's not tied to the DCEU or whatever, that it's a one-off, it's a Joker movie. I've been fascinated by this since the very beginning for a number of reasons, obviously. But like with any movie, John, like Todd Phillips said, if people show up, if this movie makes money, if the studio said, "Hey, could you guys make another one?" I'm sure. Here's a lesson in Hollywood, kids. If you make money and you're part of a project that makes money and it's people love it, and people come to you and go, "Hey, can you make another one?" The answer is always yes. It's just like if Goes with a Gozerian asks if you're a god. You say yes.
You say
yes.
It's just that's how it goes.
What's the Star Trek line? If the Almighty asks for when the Almighty appears, you don't ask for his ID.
Yeah,
you don't ask for his ID. Yes.
I mean, it's just it's a foregone conclusion. If the movie's successful, we're going to get another one.
Now, but clearly the biggest hurdle here would be probably Joaquin Phoenix, right? Like it would really be about whether or not he would do it. So let me ask you again, what do you think the chances were that they would do another one before this comment? And what do you think the chances are of them doing another one after the comment?
Well, I think the comment is immaterial. It's the movie's performance. I think it all comes down to the film. If first of all, they're already getting buzz at these film festivals. Like, my God, we were talking about this, dude. We were talking about it last year. Like, my God, Black Panther's nominated for an Academy Award, or it could be. And now this could be a film that could potentially win an Academy Award. I never thought, Black Panther won for costuming and it won for some other things, but I never thought we would see a comic book movie win an acting award or Best Picture award. I never thought I would see that. This could be that movie, dude. We could see our first Academy Award nominated superhero film one year, and then the next year we could see a Joker movie up for not just Best Picture, but Best Actor.
Yeah, we're hearing the heads of these prestigious festivals saying that this movie is a masterpiece and all that kind of stuff. What are we getting?
It's crazy, but it's really going to depend on, like Todd Phillips said, will the movie perform? Will people show up and see it? It's all about that.
Well, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about these statements from Todd Phillips, the director of The Joker? I was thinking there was absolutely zero chance that they would do another one, to be honest with you. Looks like maybe that window's cracked. Do you think it could actually happen? Let me know what you guys think. Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down now, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. Kris, what is main topic number 4?
This is from Ryan Clark. Hi, crew. Just seen a report saying Matrix 4 movie's on the way with Lana Wachowski writing and directing, with Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss both reprising their roles. Is this a good idea? How do you guys feel about Matrix 4?
I'll tell you what, I don't know. Now, for those of you who are not here, who haven't heard about this and going, wait a minute, where's all this coming from? Yeah, apparently it's a done deal. This thing is happening. It is coming. This, again, comes to us from Variety. Lana Wachowski is set, one of the Wachowski siblings, obviously. Curious to note, only one of the Wachowski siblings, not both, it's just one, is set to write and direct a 4th film set in the world of The Matrix with, this is the key part, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss reprising their roles as Neo and Trinity, respectively. Plot details are currently unknown, as is how the role of Morpheus will be handled. Originally played by Lawrence Fishburne, some sources say the role may be recast for a younger take. So that's where all this hubbubaloo, as you would say, is coming from regarding a new Matrix. It looks like it's coming. A couple of very interesting things here to me, Rob. Number one, I already pointed out the fact that it's only one Wachowski. Number 2, the fact that what they're talking about with Morpheus. Number 3, spoiler alert, didn't Neo die? But if you understand the cyclical nature of Matrix, maybe they can get around that. I'll be honest with you. Not excited about this news.
What?
I'm not excited.
What?
Now, I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. But there's a couple of things that keep me from being excited. Number 1, sorry, the Wachowskis haven't done anything worth watching in a while. As a matter of fact, they didn't just put out a couple of movies that weren't just good. They put out some movies that were some of the worst cinema I have ever seen.
Are you going to diss on Jupiter Ascending? Because I might have to walk off. Come on.
Dude, I saw a double feature. Schnepp, and Dennis went to go see a double feature one day of that horrible Jeff Bridges movie, Seventh Son, and Jupiter Ascending. And Seventh Son looked like an Academy Award winning film. Comparatively, that was one of the most awful gutter trash movies I've ever seen. But look, to me, it's been a while since the Wachowskis did anything that was really exceptional, number 1. Number 2, this was a franchise that ended on a whimper. Now, I like Matrix 2 more than most people do. I actually, the Seraph and all, the twins, I like Matrix 2. Not as much as Matrix 1. A lot of people seem to have a problem with Matrix 2. That's fine. I like Matrix 2. But I got to agree with everybody else about Matrix 3. Matrix 3 it ended on a fizzle. The franchise ended on a fizzle. So when you look at how that franchise ended, when I look at the recent track record of the director, I can't get excited yet. I can't get excited yet. Intrigued? Yes. Keanu's there. Good Canadian kid. Intrigued? Yes. But I can't be excited about it when I look at those factors right now. We'll see. But I know a lot of other people are excited because they're just thinking about the first movie. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing about this. Apparently you are excited about it. What do you think?
Well, look, I'm a Wachowski fan. I loved Speed Racer. I really like Cloud Atlas. And I have a certain affection for Jupiter Ascending, which I won't get into now. But I think, look, the Matrix sequels are, especially now, I think they've aged well. When they first came out, it was like they weren't quite what we wanted. I mean, first of all, The Matrix came out of nowhere. I went and saw The Matrix on the Warner lot. I knew that there was a $65 million movie with Keanu Reeves, and I'm like, is this Johnny Mnemonic 2? I wasn't really excited about it. I sat in the theater. It was one of those revelatory moments where somebody did bring a burning bush, and they did bring me tablets, and my life was changed seeing The Matrix, because I couldn't believe what I'd seen. It was the most kick-ass. And then the sequels came out, and there's so much in them. They're so dense, and they're so zany, really. But there's a lot of stuff to love in those movies. And I think that, Lana and Lily have kind of been out in the woods doing some crazy stuff. And I would love to see now what Lana was saying in an interview. That she said, look, there's so much in the world with our communications technology and everything that's happened in the world since The Matrix. There's so much more things to explore. And that excites me. When a filmmaker seems to have new ideas and is excited about their own creation, I think we're going to get something cool out of it.
What do you think about this? Because you're hearing about a Matrix 4. As a fan, is your initial reaction positive, negative, indifferent? Where are you right now?
I'm optimistic about it. I think it could be really, really fun to do, especially with the advances in technology we've made since the original Matrix. So I think it's going to be visually just a feast for the eyes. And also, I don't know if you guys checked out Sense8 on Netflix, but that was a really intriguing show. Yep. There were some swings and misses every now and then, but that was a fantastic program that was really, really cool. So as far as recent work goes, they have done some really cool stuff, no matter how you land on Jupiter Ascending.
Well, the question here is, guys, it looks like it's happening. Something I honestly thought there was a very small chance happening. Matrix 4 is apparently coming. Are you stoked about it? Do you not care about it? Are you like me, a little bit of a wait and see, at least intrigued? We'll see where it goes. I want to know what you think. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, that does it for all of our topics today. No, I'm kidding. We do have one more. We have one more topic today.
We do?
Yep, we do. One last topic that we need to talk about here as a main topic. Kris, whatever could the fifth and final main topic be today?
The one you've been waiting for, y'all. Braden Smith writes, "Hey, John. With the success of Spider-Man, the MCU, and the success of Venom, things looked great for Spidey in the MCU. I guess not. Deadline is reporting that Disney broke things off. People were concerned that Sony wouldn't extend the deal, but no one talked about how Disney might be the problem. What are your thoughts? Thanks. Get ready for the rant, you guys. Prepare yourselves."
What is funny here, is that over the past couple of years, the thing everybody's been worried about, the thing that everybody was questioning, is will Sony kill the deal when it's done? Will Sony pull Spider-Man out of the MCU? Will Sony be the ones to cut the cord and pull the trigger and do that? And I've been saying, listen, I think Sony's very happy. I think before Venom came out, I said, if Venom's a success, then that will convince Sony that they are perfectly good where they are, making their own movies without Spider-Man, and then making money on Spider-Man being in the MCU. They will be happy. I'm telling you, if Venom is a success, Sony will be happy and Sony won't pull Spider-Man. But what they asked in the question is absolutely correct. None of us stopped to ask, what will Disney do? Because we've all just been assuming, you've been assuming, I've been assuming that the only question mark was Sony. Disney is clearly happy. Disney negotiated a deal a couple of years ago that they were thrilled with. They got to get production fees from Sony for doing Spider-Man movies. They got 5% of the box office, scot-free money.
First dollar gross.
First dollar gross, too. Complete scot-free money right there. They got 100% of all the merchandising rights, which they have made a fortune on. And as the cherry on top of it all, they got the rights to have Spider-Man in their MCU movies that they didn't need to give $1 to Sony for. They got to keep all the money. Disney had a sweetheart of a deal, and they knew it. They negotiated it. You knew it. I knew it. And that's why none of us ever questioned. We never questioned about whether Disney will want out of the deal. We've only questioned about whether Sony will pull themselves out of the deal. So that's where things have been. And then yesterday, the bomb drops. The bomb comes out of nowhere, and it drops, and it shook the movie fan world. Basically, this deal that Disney was so happy with and thought that they negotiated was fair deal, was very beneficial to them, they now came back to Sony, apparently, according to a report in Deadline. Everything we're going to be talking about here comes from that report out of Deadline. And then we're going to talk about Sony's response here in a second as well. Sony came out. They still wanted to keep 100% of the merchandising rights. Understandably, why would you give that up? Disney still wanted to be able to have Spider-Man in the MCU. Of course they do. Of course. Nobody doubts that. But instead of 5%, they wanted a 10 times bump in that to a complete 50-50 split, including co-production rights and co-financing rights, which essentially, if you understand that and look at the underlying things, takes Sony's controlling interest of their number one franchise away from them, and according to the report and Deadline, would have given Disney the option for co-finance as well, not just the Spider-Man movies, but the other movies Sony wanted to do too, including Venom, Morbius, Craven, all that kind of stuff. So basically, the way I kind of set it up in something I put up on Twitter was this. Imagine you are a dude and you negotiate with a company to work with a company, and you negotiate for, I don't know, $500 a month to do a couple things for your company, for this company, right? You negotiate it. You feel good about it. You think it's a good deal. Okay, now a year or two passes and things are going well. So you go to the company, you say, you know what? I'd like to get a little bit more because things are going well. And the company goes, you're right. Things are going well. You should get a little bit more. What are we thinking? 550? 600? 700? No, I was thinking 5,000. Literally 10 times more. I'm literally thinking 5,000 a month now. You know what the company's going to do? See ya. That's what they're going to say to you, and away out the door you go. Now, one of the things that I always love about doing this show is that Robert quite often has very different opinions than mine, and I am curious to get to them. But let me say this about this situation here. When I look at how utterly ridiculous the demands Disney is making here, and by the way, you know what? I wasn't going to do this. Let me read this text message I got from a film executive and we all know here. Went back and forth. I asked them about the thoughts on this thing. Listen to this. Fans who are blaming Sony do not understand how the movie business works or what the fuck that they are talking about. Sony giving away 50% of the upside and controlling interest to their biggest franchise is something that no studio or studio executive would ever consider doing. What Disney has done here, and I mentioned this to Rob I said this to you, Rob, just before we started the show today. I said, you know what? As I'm looking at it now, what Disney has basically done here, it is so outrageous that I am left to wonder if they put this altering the deal thing together, knowing full well that no company in their right mind would accept those types of terms, and that Disney intentionally wanted to end the Spider-Man deal. Now, look, I can't for the life of me imagine what their motivation for that would be or why that would be the case. I honestly can't. But the illustration that I gave, I told Kris and Rob before we started the show was, remember that one episode of Seinfeld where Seinfeld actually wanted to break up with his girlfriend, but couldn't think of how to do it without looking like a dick? Well, then Costanza says to him, you know what? Tell her you want to have a threesome with her and her best friend. Then she'll break up with you. Perfect. And that to me feels like what Disney has done here. I feel like that they have put together such an outrage that everybody in the film industry knows that this was a completely unreasonable ask. At this point, this is completely unreasonable. No company would have accepted this. I can't help but, and they're smart, they know this, I can't help but feel there may be a 5% chance that maybe they did this specifically because they wanted Sony to say no. I mean, I don't know about this. And Rob, I want to get your thoughts on this. But before we do, let's get over and get the official statement that came out of Sony. By the way, I'm really impressed by Sony because they could have come out and lashed out and thrown Disney under the bus and done whatever. Instead, they kept it pretty high ground. This is their response. Sony Pictures writes, much of today's news about Spider-Man has been mischaracterized. Recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision to not have him continue as lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP that they do not own. Kevin is terrific. We are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path that he has helped us on, which we will continue. I will tell you what, everybody knows I'm a big Disney fan. I am a big Disney fan. I am. I'm unabashed about that. I love Disney and their stuff. When they make crap, I'll call them out. Dumbo, Wrinkle in Time, Nutcracker. What I'll call out when I think they make crap. But I am a big Disney fan, and everybody knows this. I am very impressed by by Sony's response, to be honest with you. They totally kept the high ground, said nothing but positive things about Disney. They could have thrown them under the bus. They could have turned this into a fight, and they didn't. But Rob, I got to tell you, as a fan of Disney, as somebody who is often the advocate for Disney and defending, things that Disney says or does until they do really stupid things, I got to tell you, as a fan of Spider-Man, as a fan of the things that they've been doing, as a fan of all this type of stuff, and as a guy who really likes seeing Spider-Man in the MCU, I am incredibly disappointed in Disney. They could have at least been more upfront about it. I'm at a loss here, to be honest with you. I'm at a complete loss. But anyway, Rob, you and I didn't talk about this yesterday, and I wanted to call you so bad, and I just thought, you know what? No, I'm going to save it so our first conversation about this is on the show. But I wanted to call you so bad last night. But, you're looking at this overall, and, how are you seeing it?
Well, first of all, I was totally on Disney's side when this news first broke. I was literally doing my own show live, and somebody sent me a super chat in and said, "Hey, have you heard this new Disney news?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I mean, this is for a genre fan. This was like you said, it was like a bomb dropping. So my initial, from what I understood, I thought it was Disney was right, because Disney put Spider-Man in Civil War, they put Spider-Man in Infinity War and Endgame, which hugely bolsters the visibility of the character, adding to, of course, the billion-dollar grosses for Far From Home. Now, even I thought, okay, you're going to share revenue with the Spider-Man movies, and it's going to be 50-50, even though that was outrageous. I knew that wouldn't fly, but I had read that Sony even went back and said, what about 70-30? And I'm thinking, okay, that makes sense.
Actually, you just raised a good point. I forgot to mention that Sony did indeed go back
Sony
with
goes
several
back
counter
and says 70-30.
offers. Yes, they did.
So I was like, this helps everyone. But you pointed out something to me that I didn't quite understand, that I had to go back and read in that Deadline article. In that Deadline article, which initially reported this, and Deadline, for those who don't know, that's kind of like, it's Variety and Hollywood Reporter, but it is the online entertainment news of choice. It's when it's on Deadline, it's pretty important to look at. Deadline said that Sony revealed that Disney wanted control of all of their Spider-Man movies, all of their offshoot movies, whether it's, I don't think the Morbius movie, it's already in production, but a Craven film or a Sinister Six movie or anything going forward.
Venom 2,
that Disney would control 50% of all of their Spider-Verse. Now, even I, as much as I'm, like you said, a Disney fan, I'm like, that's absurd. That's insane, because what that would be doing is Sony ceding control of their most valuable franchise to another studio, to Disney. They couldn't control their own characters. They made a great deal in 1999. Marvel was going to go bankrupt. They were able to make a sweet deal. The comic book universe, movies universe was very different back then, and that's the deal they made. That's what Sony got. Fox got Daredevil, got the X-Men, but they made that deal. It was a good deal. Now, the fact that Sony allowed Marvel to share Spider-Man, like John pointed out, also a great deal. Now, I even thought sharing revenue on and co-financing Spider-Man movies, just the Spider-Man movies, even at 50% apiece, I was into that. I'm like, okay, I didn't realize they wanted 50% of everything. If you were to do that, as John pointed out, the studio executives who agreed to that deal would be fired the next day. You're losing control of your own franchise. Of course, that's what Disney wanted. They went in and they made a ludicrous offer. A ludicrous offer. Nobody could accept those terms. Nobody. Now, I didn't understand that it wasn't just for the Spider-Man films. So, unfortunately, I think Disney is at fault here. And Disney made demands that they knew, like John pointed out, nobody in their right mind could accept. Now, unfortunately, I don't know where that leaves Spider-Man. I think ultimately, I think cooler heads, at least as far as Spider-Man is going to be concerned, I think they're going to work it out. I think they're going to work it out because that was a very mutually beneficial agreement. You have Spider-Man come out in the MCU movies. I mean, Sony got their character in 3 Marvel films.
That they didn't see a dollar for.
But in terms of bolstering the character and making people love Spider-Man, I mean, remember the last Spider-Man movie that they made with Andrew Garfield, the second Spider-Man film, made people fall out of love with the character. Disney is doing all the advertising Sony needs for their own property. So Sony, when Venom came out, do you think Venom would have done as well if the MCU didn't exist? Probably not. Even though they had nothing to do with each other, we love superhero movies now, supervillain movies too. And I think there's a synergy there. It's unique in Hollywood. It's never been seen before, but I think they're going to want to continue on with that.
I so hope you're right. And listen, I'm not going to
They'd
go into
be idiots not to.
I heard I had a little bit of an overture from somebody in Disney yesterday that suggested maybe this isn't done yet. Maybe this isn't done yet. I think there are a couple of things that we need to keep in mind here, guys, including you, Kris. Like, I had a few people say to me yesterday, because I went on a bit of a Twitter storm on this, and a number of people would say,
I like a twit storm.
That's the opposite.
I was a twitting and a tweeting.
I went on a twit storm. And a couple of people would point out to me and say, but John, with all the success and how well everything's going, what's wrong with Disney wanting a little more? To which I said, there's nothing wrong with wanting a little more. But there's a difference between wanting a little more and 10 times more, plus a shared asking Sony to give up pure controlling interest in their most valuable character. That's not asking for a little more, that's extortion. All right, pure, simple, that's extortion. The other thing that we all got to keep in mind here too is this. Out of all the live action Spider-Man movies that Sony made, all of them made between $700 million and $900 million. They all fell within that $700 to $900 million range. It's not like Sony's Spider-Man movies were making $300 million, $410 million, blah, blah. And then along came Disney, and now suddenly they're making $800 million and $1 billion. They were making $700 to $900 million on their own anyway. Plus, it's all subjective, of course. To me, Sony has made the 2 best Spider-Man movies. They made Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which to me is the best Spider-Man movie ever. I love that movie. And Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, to me is the second best Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong. I really like Homecoming. I think I like Homecoming more than any of you guys. And I quite enjoyed Far From Home. I really liked Far From Home. I like what's going on there. And look, I want Spider-Man in the MCU under the partnership that everybody was happy with and everybody was making money and everybody was benefiting. And we as fans were benefiting. That's what I want. But like you pointed out, Rob, and I like the way you articulated it, this is just something that no company could possibly accept. There's just no way. And I am saddened, to be honest with you, to see the response of my fellow fans online not looking at the big picture. Because everybody's just like, well, we love Disney, so even if Disney asks Sony, as a part of the new deal, all of your executives have to sacrifice your firstborn children. Go do it.
Seems fair.
Everybody online would go, yeah, Sony should do that so Spider-Man can say. It's like, you got to understand, this is simply a deal that nobody could have accepted. Let me ask you this, Kris, because I have specifically not, even when you came in this morning, I did not ask you your opinion on this because I wanted to hear it now. You're hearing about this as a fan. What's your first response to it?
Initially, I was trying to be Switzerland about it. It's like when your 2 friends date each other and then break up, and you're like, I don't want to take sides. I don't know. And I could see what Disney was doing before, because that's a lot of IP that Sony's been able to use. Yeah. Tony, Pepper, Happy, the Avengers, the Skrulls. That's a lot of stuff they get access to. So I could see wanting more money. But now it feels like Disney's gone full Thanos, and like, this is not perfectly balanced. This is not okay. That is a huge ask. And from a business standpoint, you guys are right. It'd be crazy for Sony to embark on a deal like that. I personally am very hurt. I feel personally attacked. This is the first day, if you choose to celebrate it this way, this is the first day of Chrisonica, the Festival of Lit, my birthday week. And what a shitty gift. Spider-Man is my favorite. Spider-Man's my favorite. And Tom Holland is such such a good Spider-Man, and I am outraged. How dare all of you? I also want to point out, I don't know if you guys saw this, there's already, because of the hashtag boycott Sony, at which we've got boycott Disney as well, but there is a group on Facebook already that is planning to storm Sony on October 31st, dressed in Spider-Man outfits to get Spider-Man returned to Marvel. And this is so much better than the Storm Area 51. Like, this is amazing.
There's a lot less ground to cover when you storm the gates.
That's true. I'm still outraged that there is this belief amongst the fandom that Sony took him back.
Yeah.
No, this is Disney did this. Sony was perfectly happy with this arrangement. They wanted to keep this arrangement. They were probably even willing to budge. You mentioned the 70. They were even willing to go as high as 70-30, which is a 6 times increase. And
by the way,
Disney's saying no.
That's a great deal. A
Yeah.
70-30
that's a fantastic
split.
deal.
If you're negotiating a contract and they come back to you and you wanted 50, you went from 5%. See, what Disney wants to do is they want to co-finance these films to the tune of, they're going to put in 50% of the money. Well, that takes their controlling interest away. But if it's a 70-30 split, that's really great.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a 6 times increase.
but only for Spider-Man movies.
Yes.
You can't have anything else in the Spider-Verse.
I wanted to point one thing out here too. I put this up on because this is interesting. Look, there's a lot of potential ramifications here for what this means for the MCU and whatever. A thought crossed my mind last night, thinking about Spider-Man: Far From Home, and I put up a tweet, and I think it's the most retweeted tweet I've ever put up in my life. But I put up this tweet. I'm going to see if I can bring it up here. I'm not sure that I can. I wrote this. Remember, according to Happy, Tony only sacrificed himself doing the snap because he knew Spider-Man would be there to take care of the world. Whoops. And he ain't there.
No.
Think about that. According to Happy Hogan, the only reason Tony was willing to go through and do the snap because he knew Spider-Man would be there to take care of the world. So I mean,
think a lot of people too, though, just didn't read all of the reports.
No, so many people just read headlines and that's all they do.
Yeah.
When I was at Universal yesterday with my friend Megs, and we were just hearing about, it's over a producer credit. And that's all people were posting on Facebook, or all they were posting on Twitter was like, someone's upset because they're not getting a producer credit. They're going to figure it out. And it seemed like Sony was the bad guy from what everyone was saying. But once you read all the reports, guys, it's like any kind of news. You have to read all the sources, and that way you'll know the full story. I mean, don't take our word for it. We're LeVar Barton here. Go figure it out for yourselves.
And look, I hope we find out.
Yeah.
I hope we find out Deadline's wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Rob's pointing out, Deadline is not like, let's just post whatever rumor we.
Yeah.
No, Deadline's pretty. But
and it was Michael Fleming who wrote that initial article.
yes, and look, there's still hope. While there's time, there's hope. Because man, D23 is this weekend.
Do you still get to go, John?
I don't know. I have no idea. After my twit storm and everything, I don't know if Disney's going to rescind my invitation to be at that thing or not.
Disney, I still love you, and I'm so
whatever.
excited to see you.
Yes, Kris, you're going on a pass.
No relation.
So I no relation. all opinions expressed by John Campea are his and his alone. It's going to be an interesting environment at D23. So I'm really hoping they can get something done here. But because the way things stand, it's just untenable for anybody. And I really hope that both Disney and Sony can get together. Listen, let me take a moment here. This is the fireside chat moment. Bob Iger, Tom Rothman. That's Tom Rothman over there, right?
It is Tom Rothman.
I know you both watch this show religiously, and you hang on every word I say. So let me speak to each here clearly. For the last number of years, you guys have been making money hand over fist, working together under the agreement and arrangements that you have. And maybe the agreement and arrangements you've had need to be tweaked a little. Yeah, okay, understandable. But you guys have both benefited so much from this deal you've had with each other. Don't derail it. Don't start making unreasonable demands of each other. Get back together, sit down at a table, and stay in a locked room until you guys come to an agreement. Something that is far more fair than the ridiculousness that Disney's offer, but something a little bit sweeter than the previous deal. I'm sure you guys can come up with something. Please do. It's what the fans want, it's what the industry wants, and it's what you guys need. So please make this work. please make this work. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think about this whole Sony Disney thing? Do you think there's hope still? Do you think they can pull this out of the fire? I want to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With all that down, we're going to go on and take some live questions because I'm sure the conversation about Disney and Spider-Man is not over yet. I'm sure there's a lot more to cover once we get to the live questions. But before we go over to the live questions, guys, there's a number of other things going on in the world of entertainment and movie news that we don't have time to make full, exhaustive main topics, but we want to at least make sure we touch on them. So we're going to jump into today's installment of Buy or Sell. And we're going to get things going here in Buy or Sell with this, a brand new trailer for a horror movie being directed by Scott Cooper, who got Jeff Bridges his first Academy Award, by the way, as a director, called Antlers. Produced by Guillermo del Toro, they've teamed together for a short story from Channel Zero creator Nick and Ostka, and the results are incredibly promising. In the film, Kerry Russell plays a small-town school teacher who begins to suspect that all is not well with one of her students. Guys, buy or sell? We'll start with you, Kris. Buy or sell this new trailer for Antlers?
Sell. Kill it with fire. God, I hate it. It looks really good. If you like horror, you're going to really like it. Me, I will go read the short story it's based on, The Quiet Boy, and I will wear a Snuggie and feel safe.
I was watching you watch the trailer, and just the whole time she was going, nope, nope. Rob, buy or sell this trailer for Antlers?
Bruh, I'll pay double for this goodness. This stuff I looked at this trailer and I'm like, finally, somebody has made a horror film that I am very excited about. I mean, no, I was excited about Midsummer, but give me the creatures, give me the creepiness. This looks like a class A #1 horror. I can't wait.
I'm going to take it then that's a buy. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Next one up, interesting fact, a lot of us already know that Will Smith was up to play the role of Neo. He was actually offered the role of Neo. He ultimately turned it down. New story comes out today that his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, actually pleaded with her husband to take the role. She saw it as a visionary film. Interesting side note, she went out and she was auditioning for the role of Trinity. She then made a really great comment saying, you know what, I never could have done what Carrie-Anne Moss did. She was a fabulous Trinity. That's great. And she ultimately did end up being in the franchise anyway. Rob, let's start with you. Buy or sell that Will Smith should have listened to his wife and taken that role in Matrix?
First of all, I don't understand. The first rule of marriage is you always listen to your wife. How do you turn that down? So I'm buying that Will should have listened to Jada, man. Should have listened.
Kris, buy or sell this?
I buy it. My husband always says happy wife, happy life. So
it's true. You know what? I'm going to sell it. Like, it's easy in hindsight to do that. I'm sure Will Smith gets offered a lot of stuff. And I read in the initial pitch meeting that they gave him that all they talked about was the bullet motion stuff. They weren't really talking about narrative or story. So that ultimately was the reason. I accept that. Hindsight's 20/20, but I'm going to sell that he should have taken it. All right, let's move on to this thing here now. Andy Muschietti, of course, we just talked about It Chapter 2. The reviews are very positive. Maybe not the best movie ever, but the reviews are very positive. But there's talk right now that he is actually maybe cutting together a supercut of It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 combined into one huge mega film. I'll start this thing off. I sell this. This is a story that is really meant to be visually, at least at any rate, meant to be in two different chapters. There's such a clearly defined separation point between 1 and 2. I don't want a 5.5 hour version of this movie. I'm happy with the way it is, so I'm going to sell a supercut. Rob, buy or sell the idea of a supercut of It?
I'll buy it, but why not? We got both movies. I'll watch a supercut. Where is Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair? I saw it in the theater. Haven't been able to buy it on physical media. Why not?
Kris, buy or sell this?
Sell it. You start one movie and then you start the other. Why do you need them cut together?
All right, we move on to the next thing here. This is interesting. David Oyelowo, the Academy Award nominated actor, is joining George Clooney in his new movie that is based on the book called Good Morning Midnight. Now, whether that'll be the name of it or not, we're not really sure. They're also joining actresses Felicity Jones and Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights, which I know Rob loves completely. This is George Clooney's first directorial effort since 2017 Suburbicon. The Revenant writer, actually, Mark L. Smith, wrote the script. Now, this is a post-apocalyptic tale that follows the parallel stories of Augustine, played by George Clooney, a lonely scientist in the Arctic, and an astronaut on board the Aether spacecraft, which is trying to return home to Earth. As Augustine races to make contact with the spaceship, David has said David's role right now is to be kept under wraps. Kris, I'll start with you. Buy or sell the potential addition of David Oyelowo to George Clooney's new movie on Netflix?
Buy. He's incredible.
Yeah, I've got to. This is huge to me too. I think this guy's going to have multiple Academy Awards on his mantle before his career's over. I'm going to give this a buy. Robert?
I'm buying it. I've loved him since I saw him in the British series MI5, or as it was released in Britain, Spooks. He's one of my favorite actors working today.
Oh, and guys, if you haven't seen him in Selma, go watch him in Selma. He's so bloody good. Anyway, last one here today. Sudden Death. The good, no, nay I say, all-time classic Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. Apparently he's being given a remake on Netflix. Now, this is going to be starring Michael Jai White, who, of course, from Black Dynamite, and he's also in Arrow and stuff like that. I love Michael Jai White. I could talk about Michael Jai White all day, every day. They're talking about doing this. Apparently, they're looking to go in production sometime this year. Of course, the original film was Jean-Claude Van Damme plays a security guard at the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey arena during Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals when the Vice President of the United States is there, and Jean-Claude Van Damme has to thwart a plot to capture or kill the Vice President of the United States. It's as bad as it sounds, but it's awesome at the same time. Should they remake this thing? I sell this. Look, I'm all for remakes. I am all for remakes. The reason I'm going to sell this one, though, is this whole movie was kind of predicated on Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't know if this movie's the same thing without Jean-Claude Van Damme. So for now, I'm going to make it a sell. Kris, buy or sell a remake of Sudden Death?
Sell it, because they've already remade it. It was Threat Level Midnight in The Office.
With Michael Scorn.
With Michael Scorn.
All right, Rob, buy or sell a new version of Sudden Death?
Sell it. I want the 4th Olympus movie.
Oh,
instead.
I haven't seen. Are you planning on seeing the third one?
Hell yeah! I love the Olympus movies.
I like the first
or
one.
I should call them the Has Fallen.
The Has Fallen movies. I like the first one. I thought the first one was really quite good.
I like the first one. I love the first one. I didn't love the second one, but I liked the second one a lot. As an action programmer, it was great, and I can't wait to see Angel Has Fallen.
Was the second one more of a trip than a fall?
Well,
it's
in
a trip to
London.
London.
I'll leave.
In London.
Sorry. That was
All
bad.
right, guys,
Good.
that will do it.
We killed a great joke that you just made.
I know we did. We
apologize
kind of
for that.
accidentally trampled all over it. Thank you. That'll do it for buy or sell for today. Do you guys have any thoughts on any of the ones that we talked about? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. Now listen, before we get on with the live questions, if you'll indulge us, the show's been going for about an hour now. We're going to take a slight break just to powder our noses, refill our drinks, give our voices just a little bit of a break. So we're going to take just a couple of minutes of break here. Please hang out with us. We'll be right back in just a few minutes and continue on with today's episode of the John Campea Show. We will be right back. right, and we are back. Thank you guys for your patience as we took a little bit of a break there. It's time now. Let's jump in and start taking the live questions. I'm sure you guys have a lot of things you want to say. So we're going to start off in this thing right here, and we're going to get into it. And this first one's going to come as I adjust this just a little bit to get this all on screen properly, because I did not do that before we started. My apologies, everybody. Anyway, the first question today comes to us from DC. And DC writes to us. Where does he write? Hey, John. Well, that wasn't the first one. Yes, it is. No, Mighty Tank. Sorry, I did that again. Oh, what a terrible start we're off to here. Okay, Mighty Tank. Everything's going so smoothly today. Okay, Mighty Tank writes, welcome to whose Spidey is it anyway? Welcome to whose Spidey is it anyway? Where the points don't matter, just like phases of the MCU, which is totally true, which is something I've been saying for a while. Phases, arbitrary numbers, but yeah, I mean... come on, guys. They got to get this thing together. Anyway, DC writes, hey, John, hope Ann and the dogs are doing well. They are doing great. Thanks for asking. Have you gotten a chance to watch Blinded by the Light? I thought it was a great movie. No, listen, I've been convinced this is a great movie since we saw some footage of it at CinemaCon in April. But there were 5 new movies that came out this week. I had a chance to see a couple. I've been very, very busy. I haven't had a chance to see Blinded by the Light yet. That is high on my priority list, though. Have either of you guys had a chance to see Blinded by the Light?
No,
I'm
but
so
I want to see it. It's
excited.
got great reviews, and it didn't do well.
No, it did not do. I mean, it's clearly not a movie that was destined to make $300 million or anything
Yeah.
like that, but I'm hearing marvelous things about it, so I do have to get out and check that out this week. Canada Rocks writes, FYI, U.S. copyright laws do not protect titles or names. However, you can apply for a trademark. For example, Lucasfilm had Star Wars trademarked in 1979. You're absolutely right, Canada Rocks. It's interchangeable. For a lot of people, when you're just talking about the common terminology, a lot of people use that interchangeably, although you are correct. They are two different things, and you're absolutely right about that. This comes on the heels of a question that came in the other day about, how can multiple movies use the same word, like Serenity? There's a movie Serenity, there's another movie Serenity, because you can't trademark common standard words in the English language. In certain orders you can, but it made it difficult. So thanks for following up with that, Canada Rocks. Okay, Helsing7747 writes, is it safe to assume that Sony won't be able to make any animated Spider-Verse TV show? Also, I think they won't be able to use MJ and Ned in the next movie. Now, this is an interesting question. As far as the television side goes, I think they're prohibited. They can't make TV shows now. I don't think Sony can make Spider-Man TV shows at this point. So Disney can't make live-action Spider-Man shows either. They can do some animated stuff if they want, but they can't do live-action Spider-Man TV shows either. As far as MJ and Ned go, I think they can, because the movies still belong to Sony. This isn't a Marvel property. It is a Sony for, movie rights wise. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Rob, but I think that those are Sony movies. Far From Home is a Sony movie. So I think any characters used in them, I think they can use, can't they? I mean, just depending on the specifics of the agreement.
No, they can, but can you imagine a Spider-Man movie going forward, following up on what happened at the end of Far From Home without Happy Hogan in it at all?
Spider-Man homeless. I mean,
Well, I said I wanted it to be called Home Front because the battle now is in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
There you go.
The battle for the neighborhood has
May
begun.
is like, I swore I was just dating some guy. I can't remember. He was a big filmmaker, I think. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
He makes Lion King and drops me like a hot potato.
Makes Lion King and drops me. Okay, Draco Eris writes, Whistler took a deep breath and launched himself into the air. She watched as the spear pointed out the range. The old dragon proverb, trust but keep an eye open, dragon avenger. Draco, you've been sending in quotes from this favorite book of yours, and I appreciate that, but it's not something anybody here has read or can talk about. So while I appreciate you quoting your favorite book, there's nothing else here anybody can talk about.
I think his name, Draco Eris, is probably like the main character of that book.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the author of the book, to be honest with you, trying to get some publicity. So maybe don't tweet in about that one anymore. Orange Hand writes, does Rob remember back in 94 when Hal Jordan became a supervillain? They say Star Wars fans are toxic, yet DC actually received death threats. That's when they made him Parallax, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Back then, and it's like, wasn't it Green Arrow that ultimately had to kill him?
He was going to extinguish the sun.
Right, and he killed all the other Lanterns to get all their rings, and he was like the big threat. And I think ultimately it was his best friend Oliver, Green Arrow, that even though he was this godlike being, it was Green Arrow with pew. He's the one who finally took him down.
Yeah, and they're releasing an omnibus of Zero Hour.
Ooh.
Back in the day, it comes out. It's like $125. It comes out in October, I think. Mm-hmm. Come on,
I remember.
who doesn't want an omnibus
I actually liked
of Zero?
it. I liked the storyline myself.
I did too.
Did you read it, Kris?
I did. I really enjoyed it. They always do cool stuff with the Green Arrow, though, too, even though he's just like a Robin Hood character. I mean, the Monitor entrusts him with all kinds of stuff, especially right now in comics.
That's true. Very true. All right. Let's see here. Jack Dries writes, Parker, give me pics of Mickey Mouse. He's a menace. I like that. I mean, hey, guys, like not all hope is lost here. I mean, maybe Disney can make the new leader of the Avengers Spider.
What if this is just
Monkey.
a big conspiracy theory?
Or Night
what
Monkey,
if
that's it.
nothing's even? Yeah, we could have a Night Monkey movie. What if this is just like a big D23 stunt? I don't think it is, but I just want to start like a weird conspiracy theory about this.
Well,
Like,
okay, first
nothing
of all,
even happened.
First of all, how huge would it be, though, if Bob Iger is on stage at D23, right, and says, you know, a lot of talk's been going on. I want to introduce somebody here right now, my good friend Tom Rothman. And Sony's head comes out. They put their arms around each other. We're gonna make 10 new Spider-Mans, motherfuckers!
Yeah.
Woo! And the internet loses their mind. It would be the greatest trolling of fandom that any studio has ever perpetrated.
Chris
if they did
Hanukkah would
that.
be restored.
I'm gonna text Bob and find out.
Oh, please do, Rob.
And you got Bob Iger and Tom Rothman out there doing DX crotch chops and saying, "Yeah, 10 more." It would be amazing. It would absolutely be the greatest thing ever. Okay, Ike Moore writes, "For me, it doesn't matter if Spider-Man is in the MCU. I just want great Spider-Man movies. Me too, man. And please keep Tom Holland. Also, looks like Eddie Brock and Peter Parker will meet soon." Listen, I actually had a couple of people write to me last night and say, you know, look, we all want Spider-Man to have his standalone movies, and we all want Spider-Man to still be a part of the MCU, and we all want that. But some people wrote to me, you know, maybe one of the, you know, happy circumstances in this unfortunate situation will be maybe we can actually see Spider-Man and Eddie Brock. I mean, you got to imagine that right now, Andy Serkis is sitting in his, you know, in his loft in Hollywood going, like, maybe I can put Spider-Man in Venom 2. I mean, I don't know. Look, that would actually be a pretty cool thing. That would be a pretty cool thing.
I'd watch that. I mean, why not put, you know, on one hand, you've got Craven with Peter Parker's identity revealed. Craven comes gunning for him.
Yes.
And then Venom's in there somehow. Could be great.
It
I'm
could
in.
be great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I still prefer the other alternative. But hey, if we're looking for silver linings, Spider-Man in that Venomverse.
Spider-Man keeps calling Happy, "Where are you? Somebody's trying to kill me, and there's this giant alien symbiote after me. Why aren't you picking up your phone?"
And it doesn't say Happy Hogan on his phone, it just says HH.
Yeah.
Right.
Just says HH.
John Favreau's just making Cubanos somewhere else. He's like, whatever, man.
If you guys don't watch John Favreau's Chef, you don't. He's making
Him and Aunt
Cubanos.
Mayer on an island somewhere, just kicking it.
Just rocking the plancha.
And
Okay.
you never see him. You just see Aunt May on the beach going, "Honey, can you bring me another Mai Tai?" And that's it.
That's it. Nothing else. Just this big, you know, meaty sausage fingers hand comes in and hands her a Mai Tai. God, I love Jon Favreau. I love him as a director. I love him when he's in movies. He's so great. Orange Hand writes, did Tony/Bruce know Strange from his surgeon fame? I'm going to guess no. I mean, yes, it is Dr. Bruce Banner, but it's a totally different field that he was in. So I'm going to guess no. Rob, what would you guess?
I would say no. There's a lot of surgeons in the world.
A lot of surgeons in the world. That's a great point. Okay, you, Kris?
No.
Yeah, I don't think you knew him either. Okay, Benny95 writes, a while ago I mentioned, why doesn't Sony keep Spider-Man? Because if their universe is successful without him, then imagine with him. I guess I was right. Well, remember, this cannot be emphasized enough, everybody. This was not Sony's choice. This was Disney's choice. Right? Now, look, and hopefully the two of them can work this out, but this wasn't Sony just going, we don't think we want Spider-Man in the MCU anymore. We're going to take him back. That's not how this went down. Be clear about it. You can have whatever opinion you want about the situation, but at least base your opinion on what the actual facts are. Sony did not just suddenly arbitrarily go, we don't want Spider-Man in the MCU anymore. That's not what happened. And that's the false narrative. I'll use the L word, lie. That's the lie that some people are trying to perpetrate, that was just Sony just woke up one day and decided, we don't want Spider-Man in the MCU anymore. That's not what happened. It's important to keep that in mind. Now, again, though, I believe Sony had the best of both worlds, and they knew it. They were making money and having they just launched a new successful film universe with Venom, made over $800 million. And they were making money off Spider-Man being in the MCU. They were having the best of both worlds.
And an Academy Award.
And by the way, the best Spider-Man movie ever made, and Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse, which won them the Academy Award. I just feel like, yeah, getting Spider-Man in with Venom, that's good, and it is a silver lining, and I'll be happy about that, and I'll look forward to that. But I would much rather it go back to the way it was. I think me and most fans would be happy just to get it back to the way it was. Matthew Leach writes, this week is going to be interesting. First Sony and Disney end their deal, then Matrix 4 with only Lana Wachowski returning to write and direct it without Lily, then Bond 25 official title, and more to come. It's seriously, we talked about the Bond 25 title yesterday, which is, what, I liked it initially and it's grown on me more. I actually really like the title. But Rob, let's get back to that just for a second, you guys. The fact, there was no explanation given about why is it just one of the Wachowskis? Like, they did these films together before. Why just one? Even if it's as simple as, the other one just doesn't want to do it anymore. Okay, that's I'm a little bit curious about the lack of any explanation about why all of a sudden it's just one of the Wachowskis when they've always done these things in tandem. Rob, do you got any theories?
Well, I don't know, but also Lana wrote the script with two other people that were not Lily.
Yeah.
So, maybe they were developing we'd heard rumors of a new Matrix movie and like Michael B. Jordan playing a young Morpheus, and there'd been talk about this, but it hadn't materialized. I'll bet that this new script was something that excited them. Lana probably jumped on board. Maybe Lily didn't want to do it for whatever reason, burnt out. Who knows? But Lana, she's been very vocal and more visible lately, especially when they're accepting awards for things. And I think that maybe she feels more comfortable to get out in front of this and do it. I mean, I think either way, I'm excited about it. I am, and I don't know why Lily's not involved, but because it is the Wachowskis.
Yeah.
Do you got any theories, Kris?
She'll come on.
I mean, maybe Lily's doing something else. They've done tons of projects together. Maybe they're kind of just shifting gears and they're going to do their own thing for a moment.
It's a possibility. Let's see. Ike Moore writes, if Good Boys got a sequel, do you age the kids or keep them the same?
It's a good question.
It's a good question. I mean, look, especially at the age these kids are at, they're going to look different tomorrow than they did today. I mean, they're at that age right now where their growth spurts is starting to happen here. So I think you can't get away from having to age them up a bit. And I'm fine with that because what I'm curious to see is if I'm going to go back to Good Boys, I just expect the humor will still be good like the first one was. But now I want to see where are these guys a year and a half later. Now they're going into grade 8. They're getting ready to go into grade 8. And now there's different challenges and different social pressures and whatever. And I'd be curious to see that. So I would hope that they would age them up. Rob, what do you think?
I would like to see that. I mean, I think that would be, then the movies become not just bawdy, funny comedies. They actually have more of a coming of age quality to them. And it could be really interesting to see where do the good boys go.
Kris?
I mean, they can't become bad boys.
I mean, stop aging them.
Bad
Go
boys.
full Interview with a Vampire. Give them the Kirsten Dunst treatment. They never age ever again. They only stay this age forever. Do it. Make it so, movie studios. You did worse back in the day, MGM. Come on.
Disney can figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. JB Bonifacio writes, Sony made Spider-Man 1 and 2 Spider-Verse, but they also made The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. By the way, I really like The Amazing Spider-Man 1.
I did too.
Good critic reviews, good audience reviews. Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Okay. They also made The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. Disney may be greedy, but Sony's literally a crapshoot. I don't think they are a crapshoot. They made Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I believe is the greatest comic book, or the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. And then they made a couple of duds. They made The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They made the terrible Spider-Man 3. But that's still not a bad record. And like I said before, those movies all made between $700 and $900 million. So to me, they have done the good they've done with Spider-Man far outweighs the bad, in my opinion. Is there some bad? Yes, there absolutely is. But they've also given us a couple of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Yeah, I don't know, Rob, how would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, it's a good point to make, but, I don't think that just because a movie wasn't so good before doesn't mean the next movie is going to be not good. I mean, I don't think you can compare and contrast that way. I mean, they've learned things. People grow. Companies grow. They understand their mistakes. And I think they've really got into a groove now. I think they know what they want to do, and I think they're going to do it.
Kris?
I think, you can't just look at the past and assume they're going to keep repeating the same mistakes. They've grown and made tremendous strides. And you got to understand, guys, these studios are run by people. people screw up sometimes, and people are allowed to change and grow, like Rob was saying. It's the same way sometimes you forget that maybe some YouTube hosts aren't people, and yet you treat them like they're holograms and just yell at them. These people are learning and growing and figuring out as you are, too.
And they did make Into the Spider-Verse on their own.
Yeah, I remember that was done without Marvel.
Academy
Absolutely.
Award-winning.
And by the way, I want to point this out too. While it is true that, yeah, Sony made a couple of duds of Spider-Man movies, that in no way, shape, or form changes the fact that Disney was trying to make a completely unreasonable altering of the deal. Like, that doesn't give you the right to be unreasonable. Just, yeah, Sony made a couple of duds.
Yeah.
They made a lot of great ones, made a couple of duds. But just acknowledging they made a couple of duds doesn't mean all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we should throw away all senses of rational thought and just say, tell them to sacrifice their firstborn children. It doesn't make it right, nor does it make the irrational suddenly rational. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's just my thought on that. Okay. Next up, where are we at? Mighty Tank 1. Yes, Mighty Tank 1 writes, this Spidey situation makes me think of the South Park episode with Mickey Mouse in it.
Yeah.
Like,
Dance, you little bastards! Come on!
dance, you little bastard. And actually, I really like the alternate thumbnail for today's show is this other one that Ray put together, which I just absolutely... This, I swear to God, I think this really does sum up the situation between Disney and Sony. I think this still image, for those of you guys who know Star Wars, I think this image that Ray put together completely sums up the situation there. But you're right, man. Have you guys seen that particular episode that he's talking about of South Park with Mickey? Well, actually, he's in a couple of episodes, right?
Come
here, you little bastards.
I worked for the mouse when that episode came out.
Really?
So I was really into that. I would draw little sketches to get my roommates to clean up and be like, listen, you little bastards, put your dishes away.
And then, oh my God, it's so
that's
funny.
when I was a Disney intern. So that
Well,
was how I felt.
Great reference, Mighty Tank. Great reference. All right, Massive Jada writes, once again, it ain't show friends, it's show business. And
I always
it's
say.
true. You know what,
Oh.
Rob? Here's the thought that came to my head. When I was reading about this, I remember I could hear the mighty wise words of Robert Meyer Burnett in the back of my head going, it's not about what you earn or deserve, it's about what you negotiate, right? And it ain't show friends, it's show business. True. But my own counter to that in this situation is, here's a situation. I'm going to tell you a true story, maybe a little bit TMI. But years back,
On this show?
I had this blister on my ass. No, totally different story. Years back, this is back in AMC, about the midway point of my time at AMC. And I was transitioning from being, for the first number of years that I worked with AMC, I was a contract guy, right? I was just contracted by them. I wasn't an employee of AMC. I was a contract guy charged by them to put this division together, right? Out in Los Angeles, put this division together, online movie news division, blah, blah, blah. So I did. So then we were coming time where now they understood they needed to transition me to being an employee of AMC. And then we got into our salary negotiations. Now, remember, this is years ago. And I felt, this is going to, it ain't about what you deserve, it's about what you negotiate, right? I felt that what I should be paid was in the six-figure range. And my rationale for that was not only all the success that we've had so far building this, not only the fact that I have no overseers here, like AMC's head office was in Kansas. We had no support structure in LA. I was doing all this on my own with a terrific team that I had hired to work with me, including the great Dennis Zen. When I looked at comparable other positions in our industry about other people who held the similar position I did with other companies and what they were making, combined with the fact that how many employees I had reporting to me, because I think at the time I had like 7 or 8 people reporting to me. In a corporate structure, that's actually considered a lot. So when I looked at all of that, what I felt I deserved was something that was comparable to other, and they needed me living in LA to do the job, and this is a very expensive city to live in. So when I took all that into consideration, I said, I believe what is fair, and it represented a significant raise. It did. Not double or anything, but it represented a significant raise. I felt what I believe I deserve is to get into the 6 figures. Now, there's that. That's not about what you deserve, it's about what you negotiate. It ain't show friends, it's show business, negotiating for what you think you should get, blah, blah, blah. There's a difference between that and me going to AMC and saying, I want $975,000 a year, assholes. Give it to me or we're done.
That is a Kris Carr move, not a John Campea move.
Exactly. It is a Kris Carr move. There's a difference between going in and rationally saying, I believe I deserve more because of the success, because of the standard environment that we're in, blah, 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 blah. There's that. And then there's just being an asshole and going, I want $900,000. Yeehaw! You know, what AMC would have said to me is, fabulous. Mwah! They would have given me the double F'ers, the stone cold double F'ers, right? That's what they would have given me, and they would have been right to do so. And that is akin to what we have here. And anyway, I can't even remember why I told that story. Oh, right, because Massive Jada brought up the great wise words of Robert Meyer Burnett, which is, it ain't show friends, it's show business. And it's true. And as business, it's just not a business move Sony can do. It's just not something they can accept. Anyway, sorry, that was long-winded. Anyway, Apex Caliber writes, the John Campea Show Civil War. John Team Sony, Rob Team Disney. Here we go. Well, you know what? We're not as opposite on this as I thought we would have been.
No.
But I gotta admit, I do get a kick when we are on the opposite side.
No,
of things.
it's true. But look, after you told me about, I did not realize, as reported in that Deadline article, I guess my reading comprehension skills were down, that they were going after all of Sony's Spider films, and I'm like, no. You can't do that. The Spider-Man movies are one thing, but going after all, that ain't gonna fly.
But you and I will still disagree on that one point, that I think even if it wasn't Disney being interested in the other properties as well, even if it was just Spider-Man, I just think 50% is far too big of an
they were
ask.
going to finance 50%, and
but that would have given them 50% returns, as opposed to right now they're getting 5% returns.
Look, they couldn't, but that's why I thought that 70-30 split that was reported, I'm like, that's your deal. That's your deal,
and
right
I think
there.
that's generous.
It's a generous deal. Feige retains his producership over the movies. Disney gets to put in more money. They make
Sony
a lot more
maintains
cheddar.
Controlling interest.
It worked out for everyone.
Everybody wins.
You know why? Whatever. I don't get it.
I don't know. And then you have Kris demanding 50% of my channel, which I still...
I think I'm fair and reasonable. Can you explain to me why that's not fair and reasonable, John?
Well, we'll talk about that off air. All right. Paul Bermudez writes, how much this Spider-Man thing will affect D23? Oh, look, there's two separate things. There's the stage at D23, and then there's the audience at D23. Amongst the audience, that's all people are going to be talking about. That is all people are going to be talking about. From the stage, you know that cartoon with the dog sitting in the room that's on fire going, it's fine. That's what it's going to be. They're going to ignore it. They're not going to talk about it. Everything's great. And for the most part, everything at Disney is great.
Yeah.
$1 billion Aladdin, $1 billion Lion
Duck on the water.
Yes.
Floating right by, little legs going, ah!
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
Frozen 2, Rise of Skywalker.
It is nothing but win after win after win at Disney. So they're going to focus on that.
Yeah.
They're going to focus on that. And in the audience, everybody's going to go, what about Spider-Man? And we'll see what happens.
For my anime fans out there, it's going to be like Avatar. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. They're going to just be like, there's nothing going on. We're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
Kris's analogy. My
Right
head.
over your head.
No idea. But I'm sure everybody else is going, oh, okay, now I see what they're
It's that
talking about.
Superman meme where Superman's looking over his head.
Okay, let's keep rocking here. Apex Caliber writes, but they're negotiating a new deal, not the old one. Yeah, absolutely. I predict in a month a new deal will be with 15%. Look, all I can say is this. Again, I had some communication with somebody in Disney that at least hinted that, hey, there still could be a chance this can get worked out. Which I think is what, regardless of what side of the aisle we're on this, whether we're on, boycott Disney or the boycott Sony side, whatever side we're on, I think we can all agree, we can sit down in a giant kumbaya circle and go, we all hope they work this out. Like, I think that's what we can all agree as fans on. We all want this to be worked out. and hopefully, the people in charge of doing this whole thing over at Disney, the people in charge of handling this whole thing at Sony, will get their heads together, get their mouse ears and their collective heads out of their asses, and all come together and figure this out. This is a good situation for both companies. This has been very, very good for both of them. And
also, John, there's shareholders to think about.
Yes.
And they're touting the fact that, hey, our Spider-Man movie just made $1 billion, and it's the biggest grossing movie. It outgrossed Skyfall. Well, it had Happy Hogan in it. It had characters from the MCU in it. And this agreement has been very beneficial to everyone that's been involved. It hasn't cost anybody money. It's brought in, we've got Academy Awards. People are excited. And this announcement created acrimony where none existed in the public's mind. And in one day, they've caused, people are going to walk in and snicker when somebody gets up on stage at D23. And when Spider-Man's being re-released in theaters at the end of this month, they've created a public relations nightmare that didn't need to exist.
Did not need to exist. And what sucks is that this got public. It sucks. And we were talking about a bit beforehand. At first we were thinking, who's really unfortunate in the middle of all this is Tom Holland.
Poor guy.
But then at the same time, when I think about it, it's like, at the same time, I think Tom Holland's coming out smelling like roses right now because everybody loves Tom Holland, right? And I think Tom Holland's going to be fine one way. He's going to be Spider-Man one way or the other.
Yeah.
I think wherever this happens, I think Tom Holland is still going to be Spider-Man. I really do. I think whether they can get this deal made and he stays in the MCU or not, I think Tom Holland is still Spider-Man. I don't think he's going to be paid, kid. I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to get paid well, but we'll have to see how all that goes. Okay, let's see here. Colby Harris writes, do you think they will use Sony? Do you think they will Sony use Tom or reboot? I think they're going to use Tom. I do. I think they still got him under contract. I think they will use Tom. Benny95 writes, I've always preferred the Raimi Spider-Man movies. They seem to be more fantastical yet real and emotional depth. MCU always seemed too comedic for me. Listen, I've said before, I think Spider-Man 2 is the better Spider-Man movie than either of the ones that Marvel has done. But that being said, I think something very special happened. Like when you talk to the people in the know about the production of Homecoming, that was a real compromise between what Sony wanted that movie to be and what Marvel wanted that movie to be. And they compromised and they delivered what I thought. Now, I know, Rob, you don't like it as much as I do. But for me, I thought Homecoming was a real special movie. I enjoyed it a great deal. I thought it had heart and humor and fun. Michael Keaton was great as Vulture. I loved him in that. And I thought, while it is different, I think you're right, Benny, it is different from the ones Sony did on their own, I thought there was something really special there. And I really love his involvement in the MCU. Because, look, I remember they're going to do a Captain America Civil War, and everybody was excited. Everybody was excited. But when that trailer dropped, with dropping out of the sky onto the top of a truck, boom, Spider-Man holding Captain America's shield. Forget about it. Bowels were evacuated. People lost their minds. Cats and dogs living together in harmony.
Mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria. It's just, there's something really special here. Now, I believe Sony can do perfectly well with Spider-Man on their own. I do. I think the numbers prove it. I think history has proved it, particularly the recent history, now that Sony's under new leadership with what they did with Into the Spider-Verse. But that's the silver lining. I just think they can do some really special stuff together that is good for Sony, that is good for Disney, that is good for the MCU. I don't know, Rob. Like, you hear some people saying, I kind of prefer the Sony ones, particularly the Raimi ones. But how would you respond to that?
Well, look, Spider-Man's always been full of humor. And I think
even from
that
the comic pages.
It's funny. I've said before, I think on the show, that the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, to me always took place in movie world. Like I didn't believe it was this weird sort of. It wasn't. I did not believe that the Raimi Spider-Man movies were being shot on the streets of Brooklyn or New York. They were in a movie version of that. I know that's a weird thing to say, but the Marvel, the MCU, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies felt they had a little bit more verisimilitude for me, because like the Green Goblin, a real Green Goblin would not be flying around with that helmet on. It would be difficult to see. You couldn't be flying. It was just, it was just a weird thing for me where I believed in the MCU Spider-Man more than I ever believed in the Sony Spider-Man. Not to say that Spider-Man 2 wasn't a great movie. I'm just saying the feel of it for me works better. Even though I didn't love Homecoming as much as a lot of people, I felt it more, if that makes any sense.
Kris, how would you approach that?
I loved Homecoming, and I loved Far From Home even more. I think they're wonderful. That's the Spider-Man I've been waiting for my whole life. And I love, love, love Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was a decent Spider-Man who's too cool as Peter Parker. Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker. I didn't believe him a lot of times, and then as the movies went on, I prefer these to Sony's. But that being said, them coming together, it's so nice. I just want mom and dad to stop fighting.
Yeah.
Just stay together for the kids. Stay together for Tom Holland. He's pure and
If
must
there's
be
anybody
protected.
that should take that advice, it's Sony and Disney.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
kids.
For the kids.
Or the middle-aged men with one foot in their grave.
In us. Yes. All right. Anyway, BMC writes, gosh, we're already past 10:30. Let's fly through some more here. BMC writes, I hope they don't recast Morpheus. Loved Fishburne. I loved him too.
Me too.
But again, though, it depends on the story. If that's what the story calls for, characters are not there to be served by the movie. Characters are there to serve the movie. And if that's what the story calls for, that's what the story calls for. But I love Lawrence Fishburne, or as Rob calls him, Larry. I love Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus. He's just so great in that. KW Garrett writes, my life in witness protection program is going well. My apologies if my anniversary review came off trollish. I was actually clumsily saying that the film was better than I expected. We should all have friends like Aaron. Yes, the hashtag got trending yesterday, justice for KW Garrett. There was, I don't know if you caught that, but there was hashtag justice for KW Garrett, which is great. And I'm so glad. And I know Aaron, once I explained the situation, she felt bad, but I'm just going to tell you what. For as much as Aaron went off, and I will talk to her about it, I will, but you got to understand, Aaron is a fiercely loyal friend, Like if you can go up to Aaron's face and call her any name you want, she'll brush you off, doesn't matter. But you do something to somebody she loves, she's gonna unleash the hell fury of a redhead. Like she's gonna go completely, Valkyrie on you. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what it did. She misunderstood what KW was trying to say, but it was real. I got to tell you guys, as somebody who's been a part of this particular film fan community here, I was so proud to see how in stride everybody in the live comments section was taking that. Like everybody understood. Everybody got what Aaron was doing. They understood she didn't realize what it was that KW was saying, and everybody took it with a lot of fun. And everybody took it in a totally fun direction. And it was so good to see, because that could have gotten bad. That could have gone bad. But our film fan community totally understood the situation. They totally read the room, and they just had some fun with it. And I'm glad, KW Garrett, that you're not too scarred from the lashing that Aaron unleashed on you. Rob and I are just sitting here. I couldn't even interrupt. I was afraid if I interrupted, she was going to throw something at me from over there, because she was hot.
It was pretty epic.
She was red hot. I mean, anyway, KW, thank you so much for being such a good sport about it. And to everybody who was in the chat who were such good sports about it. Anyway, Benny95 writes, if Spider-Man, similar to Batman, has always worked better in their own universe anyway. That way they can focus on the villains and the superhero's journey. I'll tell you what, Benny, when I'm often talking about, guys, the fact that I lament the fact that every single superhero movie now has to be in shared cinematic universe. And I lament the fact that we used to have superhero movies where the superhero was truly unique in their world. Now every 7-Eleven has 5 superheroes on its roofs, patrolling the city for crime. There used to be a time when we'd have these superhero movies where they were a unique entity in their world. And one of the movies I often go back to are those original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, is that Spider-Man was unique in his universe. He was unique in his world. There wasn't other superheroes running around. It was the Amazing Spider-Man. And because of that, you're right, there was a lot more focus on the character, on their development, on their arcs, and their corresponding villain of that movie, the Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. Oh my God. So it does, and don't get me wrong, I like shared cinematic universe movies. I do. I do. I'm not pooping on them at all. It's just that I wish there could be more at the same time of these standalone ones. And which is, when Christopher Reeve's Superman flew out of the sky, you believed a man could fly, and there was nothing else like him. There was nothing else like him. Batman was unique in his universe for a time. Spider-Man was unique in his universe. And I like that stuff. I don't know, Rob, how would you respond to that?
Well, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, I never really thought of it that way, but you're right about that. However, as a lifelong comic book fan, I always liked the way that superheroes would interact. Even when I was a kid, if you have one superhero in another comic, it'd be like, oh boy. My favorite thing in the world was when the Justice League and the Justice Society would team up every year in the pages of Justice League of America comics. And when they had to fight the Earth 3 crime syndicate, which is their evil counterparts, I'm like, bring it on. But I mean, there is something to be said for a world where the stories that you can tell about a superhero who's the sole superhero in that universe is an interesting way to go. And it's something that you can't explore when you have a whole cadre of superheroes. So
Sure. All right. Let's keep just two more here, and then we're going to let Rob and Kris go and take care of some other stuff that they need to take care of. Otto 000 writes, one of three. Saw Far From Home again and almost vomited when the Sony logo came up. Didn't see Venom, won't see Morbius, won't see Spidey at Sony. So angry about this. I get Disney screwed the deal, but they are the ones putting the work in, making the movies actually good, and Sony is just slapping their name on it. Actually, that's not true at all. Right. Anyway, I never liked the original Spider-Man movies or the Amazing ones, but the MCU made him into my favorite superhero now. Sucks to see that go away. I mean, look, there's something you got to keep in mind here, Otto, though. Number one, to say Sony had nothing, that's a complete misrepresentation of the situation. Marvel will tell you that. Marvel has told us that. That being aside, even if you don't like the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, even if you don't like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you shouldn't comment on movies you haven't seen, whether it's Venom or whatever, stuff like that. That doesn't change the underlying principle. You can't expect Sony to just go, oh, hi, Disney. How far would you like me to bend over? How much of this lube would you like me to slap in there? Yeah. It doesn't matter if you like or dislike the original Spider-Man movies. It doesn't matter if you like or love or your current MCU Spider-Man is your favorite of all time. That's not germane to the discussion of, was Sony being offered something reasonable that a reasonable company or a reasonable person could even think about accepting? And at the bottom line is, it was completely unreasonable what Disney was asking for. And I get, you can still be a fan of the current Spider-Man thing and prefer to see that, but at the same time, you can still keep your rationale and go, that's true, but over here is another way of looking at it that Sony couldn't possibly have accepted that deal. So I completely respect where you're coming from, Otto. I do. Because, look, I, like you, am a big fan of the Spider-Man movies that have been made during this deal. And I like seeing Spider-Man in the MCU. I think it's great, and I want to see it continue too. But that doesn't then excuse a completely, we are altering the deal, pray we don't alter it further. It doesn't excuse Disney taking that approach and offering something so completely universally unreasonable that I've got other studio executives texting me, telling me, look, it's great the way that the fans feel some way. Wait a second. Hold on a second. I will get to this in a second. But it doesn't excuse the fact that you've got a situation here that was completely unreasonable for them to possibly think about. It's just not something that's tenable, and you have to be able to separate that. I am a fan of this, but that doesn't mean that this gets to get away with anything it wants to get away with. And it doesn't mean that this company should just bend over, lube up the pucker hole, and just take it and smile and say, thank you, sir, may I have another? And that's what Disney was essentially asking Sony to do. And you got to separate that kind of stuff. But anyway, Rob, look, I think that you can look at it two ways. Be a fan of one, but understand the business on the other side. How would you explain that situation?
Well, I think you did a pretty good job about it. I mean, it comes down to, again, my old adage, it ain't show friends, it's show business. This was There is a deal that Sony was able to acquire in the late 90s. That deal was put in place for better or for worse, whatever you believe. That deal certainly was working out when Sam Raimi was making Spider-Man movies and there was no MCU. Now, the world changes all the time, and a lot of people say, boy, that deal sucks now. It sucks for us because the MCU has become one of the most successful, if not the most successful, franchise properties in all of cinema history. So I get it, and I understand where Disney's where they're coming from. But the fact is, you know, Sony already capitulated in a way and allowed the MCU to use Spider-Man. That was an amazing thing they were able. I remember we lived in a world where that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And how amazing it was that we got Civil War. You know, we've got Spider-Man Homecoming. We got Spider-Man Far From Home. We got Infinity War, and we got Endgame, all as a result of this deal. Now, if that's the last of it, hey, that's
was
a
great.
bummer.
It was a good run.
But what a good run.
But it was great.
You know, we got a great Spider-Man. We got in some great movies in the MCU. I'd like to see it continue. But lest we not forget, Sony allowed that to happen already. Now they have a fruitful partnership, and so often in Hollywood, this is what happens: greed, hubris, all kinds of things screw up a good thing, and everybody wonders why'd they allow this. Well, it was all greed and stupidity for me. I mean, people overreached. There's going forward, whether it was a 70-30 split, whatever they wanted to do, I think this relationship was better moving forward for everybody. It was better for them. It was better for you. It's better for us. So why not do it?
There's one thing, too, here that I suspect we should keep in mind. You know how in that Sony statement they say, hey, we respect Disney's decision. Kevin Feige's too busy to do this and this. I can't help but wonder if there actually is a little bit of truth to that. Like, there's a part of me that, remember I asked you earlier, Rob, when I said, like what Disney was demanding was so universally understood to be completely unreasonable by anybody who would know how this business works. It almost feels to me like maybe they're doing it on purpose just to get out of it. I wonder if, and I said to you, Rob, but I can't imagine what their motivation for that would be. Like, why would they do that? Maybe there's a part of this that is Disney going, you know what? We are effing busy. We've got our full cinematic universe, plus we're about to add in about 400 new characters coming in from the X-Men universe that we have to do. We're already pushing we're getting to the point where we're going to be cranking out 4 movies a year. We've got 10 properties coming out in the next 2 years when you count Disney Plus and the movies and all that kind of stuff. Maybe Disney just went, you know what? We don't need Spider-Man. And for us to continue adding to our workload, we've got to make it outrageously worth our while. Like, maybe for Disney, it was just like, you know what, for it to be worth our while to just continue doing this, maybe we got to ask for something unreasonable. I don't know. Like, I'm grasping at straws here. I admit I'm grasping at straws.
I
What do you
don't
think?
buy into that because Disney's benefited from this relationship as well. The fact that Spider-Man has been put in these movies, that everybody loves Spider-Man, everybody loves Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think the only drawback is Tom Holland can't keep his mouth shut about spoilers. That's about the only drawback.
That's why he keeps a frog in there.
Yeah, that's why they've it worked out well for everybody. And there's no way Kevin Feige, he lives and breathes this stuff. He is living his best self. He's living his dream right now. And if he has to, work into the 2 or 3 hours at night to make a Spider-Man movie good once a week for the next 20 years, he'll do it. And I think that this became, I don't know what it became. Who knows what really went on. But I just think that this was a mistake.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Honestly, like, everybody will have different answers, but if you ask most people and say, okay, I'm going to say the name of a movie, tell me the moment that jumps out to you. Infinity War. I bet you a hell of a high percentage is going to go, I don't want to go, Mr.
Stark. Yeah,
I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. I don't want to go. I
See a Southern Belle?
No. I'll never go hungry again.
Was I in Infinity War? Dang. All right.
But I mean, you ask a lot of people, I bet you a high percentage of them is that moment with Peter Parker. People didn't, that's going to be, not everybody clearly, but, and then you talk about Endgame, the hug. Oh, this is nice. Or sorry. Oh, this is nice. Like, thank you for working. Like,
look, at the end of the day, John, they're still selling a product to the consumers. And what they've done is they've annoyed this consumer base that has been cultivated over the last decade that was extremely happy with what was going on.
Yep.
They were consumers that were very happy people. We're happy people. I mean, I'm certainly a happy person, and you're happy all the time. and I think that there's a lot of happiness to go around here, and they've just made a lot of people sad.
I'm
Yeah.
just on so many drugs. That's really it.
So sad.
No. I thought when that movie ended, when we had that post-credit scene, how has something worse happened to Peter Parker?
Oh, talking about Far From Home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is something worse happening to him? This is
You know the memes,
is
as soon as that's
nonsense.
available on home video and you can rip that scene, can you imagine instead of J. Jonah Jameson, it's going to be whether it's Bob Iger or whether it's whoever it is. I mean, the memes are going to come fast and furious. And
Oh,
they're
yes,
going
they
to
are.
be on the internet forever. I think I even might want to make one. Where's the downfall meme? I want the Hitler meme. Did you hear? Spider-Man's no
Oh
longer
my God,
in the
somebody's gotta
MCU.
make that one.
It's already being made. Somebody's already
Somebody's
doing the
gotta
Hitler
make that
downfall
one.
meme. I'm sure it'll be available online today.
A couple quick more here. Adam Martinez writes, to me, it just sounds like negotiations made too public. I seriously don't see this as a big deal. It will probably work itself out in the end. Again, Adam, from your lips to God's ears, fingers crossed. I do believe that is a possibility. I hope that is the case. There was some disturbing sounding finality in that official statement that Sony put out. But even in that statement, they say, hopefully that changes in the future. Fingers crossed. Let's see what. At least they haven't started shooting at each other publicly. At least Disney hasn't started trash talking Sony. Sony is not throwing Disney under the bus. They're saying great positive things about Disney. Hopefully that will point to something being done. And maybe, again, I'm telling you, Bob Iger's on stage, brings out the head of Sony, Tom Rothman, and they go, yeah, guys, we're making 10 more Spider-Man movies. Everybody loses their mind. It'll be the greatest day in internet history. I'm telling you that
Well,
right
they
now.
got, what, 3 days to work that out?
They'll figure it out. I gotta believe they're gonna figure it out. Last one we're gonna take before we let you guys go. Dude Man writes, Disney being greedy, wanting 50-50 split, but I understand they worked on Far From Home, and all that money went, most of it goes to Sony. They want more. Again, listen, I'm okay with the notion that they want more. I'm comfortable with that. They want more. Okay, great. They already had a sweetheart deal, they themselves. Disney themselves said the existing deal is a great, fair deal. That's Disney speaking, not me. They said that themselves years ago. The deal is great. But I can understand with all the success they would want more. But there's a difference between more and 10 times. Literally, 10 times more. To me, again, that kind of becomes extortion. And Disney knows we have a lot of completely blind, loyal followers and who will side with us no matter what happens. You know, Sony can release video footage, guys. Sony could release video footage of hit squads dressed up in Disney mouse ears, pulling up in Disney company vans, going into the homes of Sony executives and employees, and beating them and peeing on their televisions and dropping their goldfish out of their goldfish
They could get
bowls.
electrocuted doing that.
Yeah, that could happen too. They could do that, and Disney knows that the Disney fans will still say we're right, no matter what. And then they know that. And I think there's a part of this that Disney is leveraging, knowing that no matter what we do, a lot of the fans, a lot of the public are going to side with us because we're Disney. They're going to side with us no matter what. Doesn't matter how unreasonable we are. Doesn't matter how outrageous we are. It doesn't matter what atrocity within the confines of movie negotiations go. It doesn't matter what kind of atrocity we try to pull. No matter what we do, people are going to side with us because we're Disney. And I think they're taking advantage of that. And maybe that's smart. Maybe if you know you got that advantage, play your advantage. I don't know. Anyway, guys, listen.
That was quite the visual you painted there. Wow. Whew.
I'm all
Splattered and splattered there.
Well, and if they
Oh,
start flushing goldfish, Disney's just going to say they're reenacting Finding Nemo.
There you go. There
They'll
you go.
spin
We're
it.
being nice. Meanwhile, the Sony's kids are standing there crying, "Don't kill my goldfish. We're going to kill your goldfish, kid." And the Disney fans are still going, "Yeah, that seems reasonable.
That's fine.
That's fine." Anyway, and I am a Disney fan, by the way. Anyway, guys. Hey, listen, I'm going to keep going here for about another 15 minutes or so. We're going to take more. Listen, we're going to do a follow-up video a little bit later today It's not just going to be a regular companion video. I think we've probably got an hour or 2 hour long follow-up video that we're going to need to get to all the Spider-Man Disney comments that you guys have. We're going to get to that. We're only going to go for another 10 or 15 minutes. But in the meantime, though, I have held Rob and Kris here longer than we normally do. So I'm going to let you guys go for now. Hey, Rob, listen. Besides tonight, playing the Star Wars role-playing game here at my place, which we're going to record, and we're going to put some of that up online a little later. I'm so excited. Actually, Kris and Rob are both going to be here for that. I'm so excited. Anyway, where can people find you online, Rob?
Crying. You can find me. You can find me on Twitter at Burnett RM. Find me on Instagram at RM Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and its adjacent website, theburnetwork.net.
By the way, show off that shirt.
Can you see it?
Leveled up.
I leveled up today.
I love that shirt.
Today. I got this from Think Geek or something. All right, it was
love
given
that
me as a
shirt.
present. By the way, I don't think anyone leveled up today.
No one leveled up. No one leveled up today.
I level up every day.
Every
God
day.
damn it.
What is this week called again, Kris?
Chrisonica, the Festival of Lit.
The Festival of Lit.
It's an 8-day celebration of me because I'm a narcissist.
And where can people find you?
Consoling Rob today. Oh my God, that was so heartbreaking. oh my gosh. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at actor Kris Carr, and you can also find YouTube videos of me on Nerdwire.
And guys, thanks so much for being here. I'll see both of you guys later tonight. Actually, Rob, you and I are going to go have lunch later, but we'll see both of you guys tonight as we're playing the Star Wars role-playing game here at my place tonight. There's the book right there, Star Wars West End Games D6 second edition. Those are the rules we're playing tonight. I can't wait to do that. Okay, guys, let's keep on rolling here for a few more minutes here. We're going to fly through some more of these. Jonathan Vigola writes, so I have to agree, Marvel wanting 50-50 split is kind of greedy. It's Sony's IP, and they are the ones financing it. I actually agree with Sony. Now, remember, part of this is that Disney wanted to co-finance, but at the end of the day, that actually doesn't count for much. And it gave them part controlling interest in the character. It was just too much. I agree with everybody who says, well, don't you think that Disney deserves a little bit more? Yes, but there's a difference between more and 10 times more and all the other stuff that they were demanding as well. It just became unreasonable. Benny95 writes, Sony, what are you? Marvel in the Venom's voice. We are greedy. Well, yeah. I mean, again, it ain't about what you deserve. It's about what you negotiate. But man, I'm just shocked. Disney, which I believe normally conducts themselves so reasonably, I was so shocked when I was reading all the details about it and then hearing from certain people around the industry about what was really going on behind the scenes. It's like I was actually quite frankly shocked. And that's why, even though I think it's not really true, but a part of my mind wanders to, I wonder if Disney purposefully did this. Like, is Disney just at the point that they don't want to make Spider-Man movies anymore and they just want out? And by coming out and making these demands that are so outrageous that they know that no company in their right mind could accept, that was their way out. I'm not saying that's what is the case. I'm just saying it's hard for me not to wonder about that. All right. Heroes Fans Productions writes, news, Disney forces Sony to pull Spidey out of the MCU. A Mysterio. Now this is an Avengers level threat. Yeah, there we go. And again, let me just, you bringing that up here is reemphasize the false fake narrative, and I'll use the L word, the lie that is kind of being spread around social media right now is that Sony pulled Spider-Man out of the MCU. That is not the case here. Sony wanted to keep Spider-Man in the MCU. They liked their deal. They even offered and countered-offered to Disney to make Disney's position even better. It is Disney that has said, not good enough. We want this. And Sony's just like, no, we're not going to accept that. No studio would accept that. No executive in their right mind would accept that. And this is Disney's decision. This is not Sony's decision. This is not anything Sony has done. I'm a Disney fanboy, but I'm telling you right now, this is Disney's doing, not Sony's. And it just is what it is. It is Disney forces Sony out. This wasn't Sony. Sony did not. There's a bunch of people online acting as if Sony woke up today and said, I don't think we want Spider-Man in the MCU anymore. Yoink, we're pulling him out. That's not the case. That is not what happened here. This is Disney's doing. Right or wrong, it is Disney's doing. Anyway, either Audrey writes, one of two, weekly anime recommendation, genre, slice of life, comedy. Himutu Umaru-chan, perfect high school student Umaru, lives with her older brother to go to school. However, When at home, she's a less than perfect spoiled child who loves soda and video games. I just love the way you wrote that. Who loves soda and video games. It sounds like you're kind of describing me. I love my soda. And I love playing games. By the way, again tonight, guys, another plug. We're going to be playing our Star Wars role-playing games tonight. I'll put up a video of that tomorrow. Anyway, oh gosh, you know what's funny? Out of hardly ever do the ones you recommend, either Audrey, sound familiar to me. That one actually sounds a little familiar to me. I don't know if maybe Kris talked about it before or somebody else. That actually sounds familiar. I can't actually put my finger on it, but this actually sounds familiar. And most of the time that when you bring up these recommendations, I've never heard of them. This sounds familiar though. I'm going to actually look that one up later. And as always, either Audrey, thank you for the recommendation, because I don't always get around to watching them, but I know a lot of our viewers do watch and check out the things that you recommend for that. So thank you for doing that. All right. Jonathan Teft writes, one of two. Robert, have you seen, unfortunately he just stepped out. Robert, have you seen Please Stand By starring Dakota Fanning? It's a great movie about a girl with autism who's obsessed with Star Trek and enters a contest for Star Trek fan scripts. She misses the date to mail it in time, so she makes the trip to Paramount to deliver it herself. You can tell the writers really get Star Trek and use it as a great vehicle for an emotional story. Okay, time out for a second. I've never heard of this. I don't think I have. Anyway, what's it called? Please Stand By, Dakota Fanning. Is this one that is already out? Is this did this go straight to home video? It's a 2007 film, Please Stand By. This had to have been straight to home video because I have never even heard of this. I'll tell you what, I guarantee you Rob has heard of this. Rob is right now downstairs in my place here because he's got a bunch of emails to respond to and a bunch of work to do, and then we're going to go to lunch. But I promise you, I will bring this up to Robert and ask him about this. And maybe I'll bring it up again on the next show that he's on, because that sounds fascinating. And the poster is just Dakota Fanning doing this, which is great. This sounds fascinating, but I'm pretty sure this was probably never a theatrical release because I've never heard of it. But that sounds interesting. I will bring it up with Robert and talk to him about it personally about that, Jonathan. Thank you for bringing that up. That sounds really cool. Okay. Steve James writes, one of two. John, have you seen Sony's statement to the Hollywood Reporter regarding the split? That makes it seem like it was less about money and more... Steve James too. More about Feige Marvel having too much on their plate with all the new characters to deal with. They said the earlier reports were mischaracterized. Yes, they did. Again, to me, that was just them not wanting to throw anybody under the bus. Deadline did a follow-up, did an update on their original report responding to Sony's statement. And what Deadline basically said in response to that statement was, yes, there is truth to that. There is some truth to that. But the bottom line they insist is all of our sources are confirming to us that this is primarily about money. And Disney wants a lot more of it and more control. They want more control and more money, more so than Sony or any other company would be willing to accept. And that had those financial terms been reached, none of these other things would be an issue. So Deadline has responded to this, and they are completely standing by their statement on that. So to me, that statement put out by Sony, honestly, to me, sounds more like Sony just being, keeping everything civil, not throwing anybody under the bus. They're not burning any bridges. And I think this statement is really more about Sony trying to take the high ground. And I respect it. And I understand why they wrote it. And I agree with them writing it. But at the same time, I also concur and believe what Deadline is writing, that still make no mistake about, this is about the money. This is about the money, and I think Sony is just trying not to throw anybody under the bus. Anyway, Benny95 writes, I found MCU Spidey films too kid-friendly and comedic. The action scenes didn't hold a candle to Raimi's, nor emotional weight, which Sony does better in my opinion. I'm going to disagree with you, Benny, about the action sequences. I think they've done some fabulous action sequences, particularly in Spider-Man Far From Home. I think some of those action sequences were incredible. Really, really incredible. While I disagree with you about that, I will agree that the Spider-Man Sony movies did have more emotional weight to them than the other ones, than Far From Home or Homecoming. Not that Far From Home or Homecoming didn't have good emotional moments. Clearly they did. I would give the edge in that department, though, to the Sony films. But again, I'm going to disagree with you personally, brother, on the whole notion that about them not having really great action sequences in the MCU movies. I think they did. I think the action sequence stuff in Homecoming was really good, and I think the action sequences in Far From Home were exceptionally good. But that's just kind of my take on that. Jonathan Teft writes, what do you mean when you say an actor is a character actor? I've never fully understood this term. And are there other actor labels like this one? Well, I think the great Brian Dennehy, who was in that original First Blood movie, by the way. Brian Dennehy was talking about being a character actor once. And a character actor, I think if you ask 50 different people, you're going to get 50 different definitions. When I think about a character actor, it's basically this. Somebody who is never like the headline star of a movie, but can float in and out of just about any movie, anywhere, anytime, any kind of genre, and play a role to give it a lot of weight as a supporting role, and can do that all over the place. A character actor is just somebody who's never the lead person, but is there as a supporting character in a lot of different stuff. When I think of a character actor, that's what I think of. And I remember hearing a story of Patton Oswalt and Brian Dennehy talking about that. And Brian Dennehy, you got to hear this story, but Patton Oswalt talking about, meeting and talking with the great Brian Dennehy. And they were actually at an event, and Brian Dennehy was they were at an all-you-can-eat buffet, and Brian Dennehy, who's a big guy, he's not as big as he used to be, but he was a very big, robust guy. And he was just loading up his plate, right? And talking to Patton Oswalt, who wasn't in the great physical shape either, but Patton Oswalt tells a story, it's like, and Brian's just filling up his plate and like didn't care about health or weight or anything. And he turns to me and says, isn't it great just being a character actor? Which I thought was a hilarious story. So anyway, that's what I think of personally. But again, I think if you talk to a bunch of different people, you'll get a bunch of different answers. Luca A writes, do you think they can save the Spidey deal or nah? I believe there is a potential that they can save it. Again, I got a little bit of an overture from somebody inside Disney that painted a picture for me that sounded like not all hope is lost. It wasn't leading me to believe that it will get done, but it at least painted a picture to me that don't think all hope is lost. There is still potential here that it could get saved. And when you've got a situation where this is clearly in both of their benefits, it is clearly to Sony's benefit to save this deal. It is clearly in Disney's interest to save the deal. When you've got a situation where it is clearly in the best interest of both parties to make a deal happen, there's got to be hope. If you're in a situation where, in no way, shape, or form would this ever benefit one or the other, that's different. But this is clearly in both of their interests to come together and get some sort of an agreement done. So I got to believe there's hope, Luca. I got to believe there's hope. Fingers crossed. Armando Martinez writes, better performance, Jeremy Renner in The Hurt Locker or Mark Ruffalo in that's a good one. Because Mark Ruffalo in Spotlight is insanely good. Everybody talks about Michael Keaton in Spotlight, and understandably so. He just came off of getting big Oscar buzz for Birdman, and so everybody focused kind of on that a bit. But Mark Ruffalo is so good in Spotlight. Obviously, Jeremy Renner is lights out in Hurt Locker. Absolutely lights out in Hurt Locker. He's one of the reasons that movie won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. But I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to ever so slightly lean towards Mark Ruffalo in Spotlight. And I can't say enough good things about Renner in Hurt Locker and Ruffalo in Spotlight. I'll run out of words. And maybe if you ask me in 2 weeks, I might actually lean towards Jeremy Renner in Hurt Locker. It depends on the day, but I will ever so slightly lean towards Mark Ruffalo in Spotlight. All right. Either Audrey writes, it's been a while since I last mentioned my favorite movie, Ko no Kachi / A Silent Voice. I hope Kris knows about it. I'd love to hear her take on it. And if she was still here, I would bring that up to her. Let's put it this way. I am constantly being more and more impressed. The more and more that Kris and I talk off camera and all that kind of stuff, how knowledgeable she is about that world. Which is, quite frankly, a blind spot in my repertoire. It's a big blind spot in my repertoire. I know more about that stuff than, say, the average film fan, but nothing compared to the people who really know that stuff. And Kris is really one of those people who knows this stuff. So I believe she probably does either. All right. Richard Karate writes, I think that too much is being read into Lashana Lynch as 007 Bond is retired. I think she is the 007 to start of off. You probably meant off. With then she dies on a mission and they have to bring Bond back because he is the only one who can do it. Look, we've said this a long time. We addressed this a long time ago, Richard, and you're absolutely right. Everybody freaked out when they hearing that Lashana Lynch is the new 007. What people were freaking out about, though, and what I kept trying to calm people down about, saying, guys, she's not the new James Bond. She's the new 007, not James Bond. 007 is essentially just an employee number. There was a the movies have pointed out that there was a 007 before James Bond. Then James Bond became 007. When this movie starts, when Bond 25 starts, James is retired. So there's a new agent who has taken on the employee number of 007, Agent 007. That doesn't mean she's the new James Bond. That doesn't mean no, it just means that this particular character, because James Bond is retired technically, is the new person with that designation. And everybody overplayed it, Richard. Seriously, everybody overplayed it, so you're absolutely 100% right about that. All right, Richard Karate also writes, this is for Rob. What if Han isn't dead? Oh, you're talking about Han in Fast and Furious. What if Han isn't dead and he is the mysterious voice in Hobbs and Shaw that they found his body and alters? Ooh! Like, what if... Oh, my God. Okay. Totally never. Totally never. But what if they reveal that the villainous Dr. Claw voice... For those of you who remember Inspector Gadget, in Hobbs and Shaw, for those of you who saw Hobbs and Shaw, what if that's actually Han? They'll never do it. They'll never do it. But oh my God, the idea of that, Richard, completely makes me excited. I love the notion of it. I love the notion of it. All right, listen, guys. We are now at 2 hours and almost 15 minutes, so we're going to wrap up today's show. But today, we are going to do a big follow-up video today with all the rest of your stuff, talking about this Disney, Spider-Man, Sony situation, because a lot of you guys have sent in, like way more of you guys than normal have sent in tons of super chat questions to do. But what I want to do right now is just scroll through, because like when you guys send in these questions, not only do you give us great points of view and give us great fun things to talk about, but you also support the channel, obviously, when you do it. So what I want to do right now is I'm just going to scroll through the remaining questions and see if there's any particularly large super chats that people sent in. I'm going to address them right now, but don't worry, everybody else's will get addressed in that follow-up video a little bit later this afternoon. Keep your eyes open for it. We'll get to that in just a little while. So I'm just going to scroll down through here quickly to see if there's any particularly large ones that I should address right now before we sign off. So we're going to go to Sir Ivan Bennett, who writes, wait, you're saying Disney sabotaged the deal. Seems to me Sony was being ungrateful for the revitalized interest that Marvel brought to Spidey after Spider-Man 2. It was Sony that forced Sam Raimi to shoehorn Venom into Spider-Man 3. Well, yeah, but Marvel's done the same thing, Sir Ivan. Marvel did the same thing to Joss Whedon in The Avengers. They forced him to shoehorn in Black Widow into that movie. Now, as it turns out, it worked out great because Joss Whedon did a great job with it. Sony, listen, Marvel did the exact same thing to Joss Whedon. They forced him to put in a character that he had no plans of putting in that movie. He wanted to use Wasp. Joss Whedon wanted to use the Wasp in Avengers. But Disney came along and forced him to shoehorn in Black Widow. So what did Joss Whedon do about it? He said, okay, then I'm going to do a great job with Black Widow, and I'm going to make her great in this movie, and I'm going to make everybody love it. I love Sam Raimi, but that's what Sam Raimi should have done with Venom. If Sony comes along and says, hey, we're going to make you put this character in this movie like Disney did with Joss Whedon and Black Widow, then what Sam Raimi should have then done, and it's easier said than done, but what Sam Raimi should have done is gone, okay, then I'm going to make this great. I'm going to make Venom great in this movie, and I'm going to make this movie wonderful with Venom as the antagonist, or at least one of the antagonists. That's what Joss Whedon did with Black Widow. So do we blame Disney for that? No. nor should we blame Sony for that move, because then it's the director's job to then, okay, well, if that's the characters I need to use, then I'm going to make that movie great with that character in it. And it didn't happen. Joss Whedon did it. Sam Raimi failed to do it. And I love Sam Raimi. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, you got to keep that in mind. And as far as saying Sony should be grateful, oh, come on. No, they made a deal. Disney should be grateful that Sony let them take Spider-Man and put him in their MCU movies. They get to put him in Infinity War and Civil War and Endgame. They should be grateful for Sony to that, and Sony should be grateful for... They should be mutually grateful of each other. And again, Sir Ivan, that's all fine to suggest that maybe Disney would want their deal sweetened a little bit. I can understand that. I'm on board with that. But that doesn't magically make anything Disney then demands okay. And the demands that Disney was making, as I'm having studio executives message me privately, that Rob, I was showing it to Rob, messaging me privately, no studio would have accepted that. None. No studio in their right mind would accept what Disney was trying to extort out of Sony. And I think Disney knows that. Disney knows that. So anyway, yeah, just so even if you're right, and Sony should be grateful to Disney, that doesn't justify Disney making completely unreasonable demands. Like, let's say you make $30,000 a year and you feel you deserve a raise. Okay, you go to your boss. Your boss, okay, let's talk about a raise for you then. Are you going to go in and say, yeah, so I was thinking of $300,000 a year? Well, your boss is going to give you the stone cold double effers, right? No, you want a raise. Okay, let's take you from 30 to 40,000. Let's take you from 30 to 42,000, not from 30 to 300,000, which is literally what Disney was asking for. And so I got to disagree with you on that, brother. I got to disagree with you on that. Okay, next up. Mike Jones sends in a really generous super chat. Thank you, Mike, for that. Mike Jones writes, I grew up on 90s Spider-Man animated series. Spider-Man worked with the Avengers, but it was never the focal point of the character. Spider-Man is a loner, scientist, philosopher, renegade. The MCU turned Spider-Man into a character he was never meant to be. And you know what, Mike? To a degree, I agree with you, right? Like, I was just talking earlier in this episode about the fact that I lament the fact that we don't have standalone Spider-Man. But then again, I lament the fact that we don't have standalone of any superhero movies anymore. Everything's in some big tied together shared cinematic universe. But yeah, you're right. It was always great watching Spider-Man just do Spider-Man. Now, that said, I still think they've done a wonderful job with him. I really do. And you guys know I hate the whole Iron Man Jr. aspect of it and all that kind of stuff. You know I don't like that stuff. But I think what Sony and Marvel have been able to do together has been really fun, entertaining, good stuff. Whether it's the Spider-Man movies themselves with Homecoming and Far From Home, or whether it's how Spider-Man has been then be used in the larger MCU movies, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. I think it's been really good and really fun. And I'll be honest with you, Mike. I am with you in the sense that I see the silver lining. There is a silver lining there. Hey, if Sony gets Spider-Man back to do their own movies, great. We can see Spider-Man. We can see a proper Spider-Man with Venom now. Yay. Okay, that's the silver lining. And I get that. And I would look forward to that. But at the end of the day, if I really got to have my John Campea movie fan wish, I want to see this Marvel and Sony deal continue. It has been so good for both of them. And I think, Mike, and I'm just speculating here, maybe I'm wrong, but what I think here is that as this Peter Parker has continued to progress and becomes more and more of his own man, I think in the future we would have seen Marvel and Sony make Peter stand more on his own 2 feet and be more of that individual hero that we know him as and that we know he can be. And I think they might have been heading in that direction. So I think we might have been getting a best of both worlds. Honestly, if Sony and Disney can just get their heads and mouse ears out of their asses and realize this is good for both of us. This is in both of our best interests. Let's find a way to make this work. And I've got to believe that the calmer heads at Sony and the calmer heads at Disney will prevail, and I hope that they're able to make this work, because I believe, Mike, here, because while I agree with you, I believe we can head into a situation where we get the best of both worlds. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed about that, because whether you're pro-Disney on this or pro-Sony on this or anti-Disney on this or anti-Sony on this, I think we can all universally agree, as I said earlier, sit together in a big kumbaya circle and join hands and say, we all want this to work out. We all want it to work out. So just hopefully these guys are able to do that. So again, Mike, thanks for sending in that super chat, man. That was really super generous of you. Let's see if there's any more big ones that we should address here before we move on today. And it looks like, yeah, that's it for now. That's it for now. So, okay, guys, listen, don't forget all those other questions you guys just saw me streaming through. We're going to get to all of those topics in a follow-up video a little bit later today. Again, today's show's been going already 2 hours and 20 minutes. So much more about this Disney and Spider-Man situation to talk about. We're going to get to that video a little bit later today. And all of you guys who sent in those topics and questions, those are getting answered in a video by me a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open for that. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Special thanks to all you guys who are Patreon supporters of the channel. Thank you guys so much. And also special thanks to all of you guys who sent in those live questions, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. You gave us your perspective on things, and you supported the channel while you were doing it along the way. So thank you. Special thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett and Kris Carr, who were here earlier for the show. And don't forget, a little bit later tonight, we're going to be doing some Star Wars West End Games D6 second edition role-playing games, third edition actually, role-playing game stuff. We're going to record it and maybe air a little bit of that later tonight. Maybe put that video up tomorrow, maybe tonight. We'll have to keep our eyes open for that. So keep your eyes. Not going to shoot it professionally or anything. It's going to be shot very cheaply, like very low quality. We're not making a production out of it or anything. We're just going to set up a camera and hit record. And that's about it. But it should be a lot of fun, because I love playing the Star Wars role-playing game. Anyway, that'll do it for us for now, guys. Make sure you come back again a little bit later. And once again, hey, do me a favor. One of three things. If you're here, click on the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the discussion. Not just if you agree with what we're saying, but if you enjoy the discussion, give this video a thumbs up. And make sure you guys leave a comment in the comments section below. It's always good as film fans together to agree, to disagree with each other, and just have a good time together as we're doing it. Make sure you guys fire that stuff in there as well. That will do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.